I think the biggest negativity we do to ourselves is we avoid the things that bother us.
If you had two choices at the end of your life, you can make a massive amount of impact or a massive amount of money. Which one would you choose?
How'd you get to be a billionaire? I think that's the wrong question when you see somebody successful. I think it's more of like asking them.
You don't become successful without strong habits. And in this video, I sit down with entrepreneur Dean Graziosi to break down the habits you need for success. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and comment below your key takeaways.
So what are some of the habits then that you learned over the years that the millionaires have that the rest of people don't have?
So this one's gonna sound crazy, but this is one that I shouldn't say it sounds crazy. It sounds too simple. But this one has been a passion of mine for the last probably 2 years more than ever, last 6 months especially. I told you before with being a dad, you always want to be able to look in the mirror, no matter how much money you're making or what you're doing for a living, and look at that person and say, are you good with you? Are you compromising who you are? Are you going against your values to be successful? But, you have to have that conversation with the man in the mirror, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you have kids, it compounds times 1,000. Anybody watching who knows exactly what I'm saying. Kids don't do what you say; they do what you do. So you have somebody watching. If I want to be the best dad possible, I need to keep evolving and faster than ever. So I would say a morning routine. This is just one of them that's been huge in my life. Is setting my day up for success. And in an interview like this, there's so many different directions we can go. But I want to give some really strong takeaways here. Is everybody watching? We suffer on all different levels of suffering. Some people suffer on a high level. Some people suffer because is the job going to get done? Is the deal going to come through? Like, we have these moments of suffering, no matter if it's 5 minutes of suffering or an hour of suffering or months of suffering. Right. Some people lose a relationship and they suffer for years. Some people have a partner take their money. They suffer for years and they're stuck in that. And if you can limit the time you suffer, the more you can work on the solutions to better your life. People stuck in suffering are stuck forever. And we know right now I'm saying it, and you're thinking of friends that you have that are stuck. They went, found some suffering, and they just crippled.
Or moments where I was suffering and I didn't let go of it.
You can't let go of it, right?
Or I held on to it for too long and it hurt me.
Right, and if you hold on to it, there's not enough energy or focus to keep moving forward. That's when you stall, right? Yeah. So what I've been on this obsession, and literally Tony Robbins flew out. Him and I got really close. He flew out, and him and I had lunch about 9 months ago, and he's on the same thing of eliminating complete suffering gone. Instead of it hours or weeks, it's moments that you catch it. So morning routines help me more than ever. Right. And I'll tell you mine. Anybody wants to steal this works for me, because I want to set my days up for least amount of suffering, feeling grateful and ready to just rocket the day. Nothing can get me off. Now, everybody knows gratitude is a key to success, happiness, joy. You can't be grateful and depressed, grateful and sad. You just can't do the two together. But it's hard sometimes. I feel like the Roadrunners before your time. But when I was a kid, remember Beep Beep, the Roadrunner?
Of course,
there was the Tasmanian Devil.
Yep.
So most of our lives with Facebook and social media and cell phones, we're like the Tasmanian Devil. There's so much dust around us. It's hard to see through it, right? It's I just got to get through this storm and then I'll be okay. You want me to set a goal and be grateful? How do I get out of this dust storm, right? Sure. So I just obsessed on how do I start my day to make sure that doesn't happen. So one thing I do is at night, I put my phone on airplane mode. And for the last year, especially when I wake up in the morning, I do not check email or texts. Because I can't. If I check email or text,
especially in bed, right?
Right. And and I've done it for years. I'm not telling you something I haven't done, but the great text put me in a good mood. Bad text, I become the.
Or you felt anxious.
Yeah, and you feel like, I should get this done. I should just get this out of the way, right? And you become the thermometer of life. Life just grabbed a hold of you, and they're going to tell you how your day is going to be. Right. I don't know if I'm going to adjust you on the heat up, the ice cold, or stressed, or anxious, so I leave my phone on airplane mode, and the first thing I do is I feed my soul, right? And that's not this, I'm just being honest. I don't chant. I don't do hours of meditation. What I've done is I've lowered the bar of gratitude. Now, these are habits that you think, this is revolutionary. These are the habits that have made me successful, make me keep going forward, push through the negative times, keep reaching for the next thing. So I find gratitude, but I've lowered the bar. And I just said this, but I'll wake up some mornings and be like, damn, these sheets are amazing. You know, I mean, 150,000, you can Google it, 150,000 people die every day. There's some days I just wake up and go, damn, I'm not one of them. I'm here. And when you can find gratitude on the lowest level, not I conquered, I did. Look, I see your wall. You've interviewed such amazing people. You got to be so proud of yourself. I look at it. I admire it. That's amazing goals. But sometimes we just set ourselves up until you get the next one of those pictures up there. The rest of the stuff is just mundane. It's not. We're in this beautiful world. We're blessed every day. We're learning every moment. Even an interview like this, take all the stuff I say, throw most of it away. If you get one thing I say today, it was worth your time with us being together. Just one thing, right? Yeah. So I find a way to be grateful in like the first few moments I wake up by lowering the bar. No big special thing. Or sometimes I'll open a book like I just read The Untethered Soul for the second time. Love that book. I'll read 2 sentences out loud, and then I feed my body. So I immediately get up and I do, I mean, it's just my personal thing, but I do a big glass of water with a lemon, a green juice, some essential oils, and I down that because I feel like I'm feeding my body. And then I go move, whether it's workout, run, exercise, and someone isn't working out, I just move. And those 3 things set me up for a successful day. And then when I get back, this is something I've been doing for a year, and I'd say rob this, because there's things that, listen, you're in business, there's things that you love to do. It's your core competency. You were put on this earth to do. It's interviewing. It's meeting people. It's networking. Whatever you have is meant to be. But there's some things that you do. It's like, I don't want to do that conference call. I don't want to sit with my accountant and go over numbers. Right, whatever it is, right? And I used to think, man, I have to do that today. And I just switched that. In the mornings, I write a quick little list every day of what I get to do. I just put that word, what I get to do. When I think about that, I used to literally live in a bathroom with my dad, and in my teens I worked on cars every day and smelled fumes because I was like the rooms were always smoky. I was the only one painter in our collision shop, and I'd have headaches, and like I could be doing that. So I have to do conference calls on Tuesdays, and I don't like conference calls.
Get to do conference calls.
Do. Now when I say I get to do conference calls, it changes everything. So that little routine.
I'm not a victim anymore.
I'm not a victim anymore, right? And again, on every level, it makes a difference.
I love it. Any other or any other thing in the morning that you do?
No, that's it. That's my morning routine.
Are there any non-negotiables every day for you besides the routine?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah. Okay, cool. There's a part actually that I wanted to go over in your book called the 7 Levels Deep. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And this is an exercise that you do, right? And what is this exercise for?
Okay.
And how does it go?
Okay. So 7 Levels Deep was probably the biggest impact, the biggest thing in the impact of my life ever.
Really?
Yeah. One day. So I hired a guy named Joe Stump. Do you know Joe Stump?
No.
Great guy. He's in the marketing world, but I hired him because I want more engagement with my students. So it's all about, if you can get somebody to digest some of your book. If somebody will read 30 pages of your book, they'll read the whole book. But how do you get them to the first 30 pages? So I'm always obsessing and trying to create ethical bribes, whatever I can do to get you to take action, right? We know books work. It's the books and the action. So anyway, so Joe comes in and I said, I want to do whatever I can. And he said, have you ever done the 7 Levels Deep? I don't know where he got it from. This is probably about 8 years ago. She was 2. So about 8 years ago. And I said, well, if it's good, just give it to me.
Right.
I'll take it. I'll take it. And he's like, I want to go through it with you. I'm like, listen. And I paid Joe $10,000 for half a day of consulting at the time. And he's like, I said, I don't want to go through. I just want it. He goes, I won't give it to you unless you do it. So we sit there. And what the 7 Levels Deep is finding, everybody wants to know your purpose and what's this meaning of life and what's my why and all that. I get it. And it's kind of played out. But I don't know if anything really gets to the heart of it as simple as this. So what it basically was, he's like, why would you give me $10,000 for half a day? And I said, because I want to create a company that stands out from everybody else. I want to engage more students, change more lives. And he basically said to me, that's a really great answer. So I asked you why I'm here. And you said you want to engage more students and get more people to change their lives. So why is it important for you to engage more students and change people's lives? And I remember saying, there's a lot of people in this industry that shouldn't be here, and there's some great people. I want to help rise all boats of the good and push the rest out. I want to leave a legacy for my kids. So he said, okay, I asked you why you paid me $10,000. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. And he's like, you did this. You said you wanted to stand out and you wanted to leave a legacy. So why is it important to leave a legacy? And the whole point is asking the previous question 7 times. I took that day. By the time I got to the 3rd question, what happens is when there was 3 questions left, I should say, he asked me 4 times, it switched from my head to my heart. And I felt my physiology change. I felt my emotions change. I felt like tears welling up. And when he asked me, and I don't even remember what the fourth thing I said, but the third thing I said was, I never want to go backwards. And he got me thinking about things I haven't thought about in years.
Wow.
I didn't like being the kid with hand-me-downs, and I'd make my parents drop me off down the street with their junky car, and I'd go to lunch. And this is not a poor me. My life was designed to be exactly the way it was, or I wouldn't be the man or the father I am today. But there was days I'd go to school without lunch money, and I just tell my buddies I'm not hungry because we didn't have a buck, right? So I never want to go back there. And I felt that emotion, and it hit me so hard. I'm like, that's what it is. And he's like, well, there's 2 more left. So he said, Dean, why is it important that you never go backwards? And I'm like, God, I don't know. And it hit me, and I thought, my kids, I just want to give them options. I don't want to raise entitled kids or brats, but I want to give them options that I didn't have. And I'm like, that's it. So he's like, well, that's not really it, because it's 7. It's not 9. It's not 5. It's 7 levels deep. And by now I'm crying because I'm thinking about my kids, literally. And I got half my staff there, and I'm like just weeping. And it came to me. He said, why is that important? And it just hit me. And I never knew why I worked so hard since I was cutting firewood in high school and did all this stuff. I said, I need to be in control of my life. And these emotions flooded in my parents. Everybody's got their thing, right? But for me, and I'm saying this because I want you at home to be, or when you're watching this, listen to this. I realized that my parents were married 9 times when I was a kid. So I moved 20 times by the time I was 19. Different stepbrothers, stepsisters.
Both parents were married.
5 for my dad, 5 for my mom, 4 for my dad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's crazy. Always moving. Like military kids know what that feels like, right? So I'd be in a cul-de-sac with a new stepdad, stepbrother, stepsisters, have the bike, come home one day, and my mom's like, we're moving again. And then I move in with my dad, move in with my grandmother. So I had this crazy hopscotch my whole childhood.
No certainty.
There was no certainty. So what I realized at that moment, literally, I'm bawling. I mean, like literally crying. It's like, I don't want anybody to ever tell me when to move, how to dress, how to live, how to work, how I'm going to raise my kids. It's definitely not going to kiss somebody's ass for money. Right. And I realized at that moment, my why was I don't want to be a control freak. I just want to be in control. When I was 27, I retired both my parents. I stopped worrying about them. I took care of my grandmother. I take care of some, so I got those problems out of the way. And when I anchored that in, and you watching at home, it's like, if you think you're watching this because you want to be an entrepreneur, or you already are. If you're watching this, you've already had great success in your life. You want that next level, or maybe it's income, or better health, or better diet, or better physiology, whatever it is you want. So many times we think it's because I want to get out of that job. I want this freedom. I just want more money. I want to take the better vacations. And it's 7 times deeper than that. And when you find that, and the reason I know this, not only because it wasn't just transformational to me, is I did live events in Las Vegas for 6 years straight. Every single month, there was 400 people in the room that paid $20,000 to go to
real estate events, right?
Real estate events. So about 5.5 years I did them every month in Las Vegas. So once a month I'd fly in, and that was like the highest level. And every single month I'd pick somebody out of the audience, and I'd say, come on up, let's do this 7 levels deep. Like, I got it, man. I know what it is. And I'm like, okay, so like, I'm gonna give you a quick example. I won't beat this up, but this is so important because when you feel fatigued, when you want to say no, when you don't want to go to the gym, when you don't want to make that sales call, when you don't want to get your funnel working, when you don't want to start new, when you don't want to say no to someone you should say no to, or say yes to someone else you should say yes to, literally for me still, I fall back on my why. And when I think of my kids and going backwards and being in control, I could push through anything. Nothing will stop me. A bad day. I don't know what it's like to be sick because my mind, I can program my brain to just power through because I focus foundationally on this why.
Right.
So I remember this guy, he was awesome. This big dude, he had dreadlocks. He was like 6'7". I mean, 6'5". He was huge. This awesome dude. He comes up. He's like, man, like pick me up. He gives me this big hug. He's like, so I said, why are you here? He's like, I already know, dude. You're not going to get 7 levels on me. You're not gonna. I've already done the exercise. He says, I'm here because in my neighborhood, there's no dads. There's not enough dads in my neighborhood. I grew up without a dad. These kids need dads. So I'm making money in real estate, and I'm starting this youth group. I already had dad. We get dads together, and we go spend these days. He had this amazing story, and I melted on the first one. And I said, well, why is that important? He goes, dude, what do you mean, why is that important to you? Of course it's important. And he's laughing, he's joking, and he gives me another reason. I want more money because I want to build a building for it. But I could tell he was still in his head. He gets to number 2 or 1, and everything changed on him. He gets small, and he starts crying. I mean, like uncontrollable crying. And he gets to his number 1. He's like, my mom raised a good boy, but when she died 9 years ago, I was a drug addict. And she never saw the man she created. And she said, I'm showing her in heaven what a man I'm saying it right now. I got physical good. Yeah. He said that, and he said, I'll never stop now. I'll never stop. And again, we all have our own reasons for doing stuff, but when you get to the heart of why you're watching, why you do what you do, it's so much deeper than what you think. And I forget sometimes. I hope I don't sit here and seem like I got my life all figured out. I've been blessed to have I've had more blessings in my life than I ever could imagine. If somebody would have told me at 25 this is where I'd be, I'd say impossible. So I appreciate my blessings, but I'm not perfect at all this stuff. But when I practice these habits, when I think through this, when I recognize my why, the days that I'm off track, the days I think I bit off more than I can chew, or the days where I feel like I plateaued, when I go back to that why, it's like game over. You're not getting in my way. Nothing is.
It's still inside of me. I'm a broke kid.
Really?
Yeah,
Doesn't that create hunger for you?
It does. It
Is
creates
there a
hunger.
way to be
No,
hungry
so that's a great question.
without having the brokenness inside? Or,
Yeah.
or the Tom Brady chip on your shoulder from 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Being picked in the 7th round or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it still...
Yeah, and I think there's a really, there's a great way to do it. I've worked on myself on so many different levels, but I think deep down, I still hustle like that kid that was told he couldn't, that had dyslexia, was in special reading. And I think I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy to the point of getting momentum, like getting the rocket off the ground takes so much energy. So if running away from an ugly situation gets the rocket off the ground, use it. Yeah. But I think once you're out in orbit, you don't need to hit the gas so hard. You kind of let those things go. So
how do we let go of
2020,
that?
what's that?
How do we let go of that story for all of us from the past, whether it's the broken kid or the broken parents or was never pretty enough or smart enough or the friend bullied me? How do we let go of that story, or do we hang on to it a little bit?
Well, so I've done a lot of therapy, right? So the best way, and I'm, for those of you who are therapists and know this better than me, I'm sorry if I screw it up, but one of the best ways I've done it, and I had to go through this when I was separating from my kids, and I have to say separating from my kids because that was the part that was giving me angst and anxiety, is just going back and seeing where the fear came from. For me, when I went back, let me go back to one of the toughest things, is I was literally having, I was having debilitating anxiety. Like I've never had anxiety in my whole life. When it was the month before I was gonna sit down with my kids and say,
we're separate.
I'm leaving, right? I'd already been living in a separate bedroom for 2 years. They knew that, but now I'm leaving the house. I already got another place and I gotta sit and look at them, and I'm having anxiety to where like, it felt like I was dying. I'd like to say I had this and I was strong and I went through the process. Dude, I was popping Xanax twice a week. I never taken aspirin. Like I haven't taken medicine now in 4 years, but I was popping Xanax twice a week and slugging it down with 2 glasses of wine just so I could feel okay for like 2 hours. I didn't know how to, and I was meditating, doing yoga, going to counseling. I was watching Wim Hof. I was doing the breathing. I was doing all of it, and I'd get 20 minutes and boom, I'd be back into this panic stage. For me, one of the things that I realized is all of that was from my 8-year-old self and 6-year-old self when my parents went through a really bad divorce, and we were hiding from it was just weird. Lots of crazy stuff, right? We were literally hiding from my dad because he was gonna come. And I realized that I was still feeling like that 6-year-old kid who thought I was gonna die, right? And the process I went through is sitting with my 6-year-old self. And I know that's probably therapy 101. It wasn't to me. I never heard this before. But I was with Dr. Amen, Daniel Amen. He made me find that 6-year-old version of myself. He said, think of a place you like. I thought of a stream that I used to fish at by myself, and it was my little sanctuary. I'd come home from school when there was chaos going on in my house. I'd grab my fishing pole. I'd walk. You grew up in Ohio. You know how quick you go to any stream, any pond's got fish. I'd walk down. Exactly. I'd go down and hide, and I'd fish all by myself, and it was my peaceful moment. So now I'm sitting in that stream with my 6-year-old. I remember a jean jacket I had when I was probably 8, but I pictured this jean jacket I had on. And I had a conversation with that 8-year-old, 6-year-old version of myself. I said, hey, you got to stop worrying. We're good. All the things, I got goosebumps talking about it. I said, all the things you were worried about, all the things you were afraid of, none of them happened. Your life turned out amazing. You're in a great relationship. You have 2 incredible kids. You're impacting the world. You got to let it go because I promise you, you're safe. And then Dr. Amen's taken me through this, and I literally hugged my 8-year-old. He says, hug him and tell him he's okay. And he's like, say it out loud. And I'm saying it, and I'm not crying. I'm like sobbing, like the hardest cry of my entire life. I'm hugging this younger version of myself and saying, we got this, we're okay. You're not gonna die, you don't have to be afraid. And it really got to my heart, and it was part of the healing process. And I think it's the same thing with everything. Like, I have to go back and say, the 17-year-old kid when all my friends went off to college and I knew I wasn't, and I was going to take my dad's business, and my dad's business went out, and I'm like stuck with nothing, and I'm living off credit cards. I still feel that some days, and that's why I hustle like I'm broke.
Yeah.
Like, you ever watch me? You know how I work.
You work your ass off, man.
And everybody's like, they must wonder, like, does he need to? It's like, no, I want to, right? But I think I need to spend time, now that you said it, I need to spend time and go back to that 17-year-old kid and say, hey man, you're just fine, right? And you go through that process, I gotta hug him out,
right?
Yeah, so I think that's the process. I mean, that was a process that worked for me.
Yeah, and then hug the 46-year-old version of yourself going through the divorce.
Yeah, exactly.
And hug him out and say, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna look what you're gonna create after you separate and get through the divorce.
I've said this to you before, maybe even on the last podcast we did, but there was zero doubt in my mind that something I wish I learned earlier, and again, this is something I put in a letter to my kid, to Luca or to any of my children, is our next level always lives on that thing that we're afraid of the most. Like, I don't think we're allowed to get to our next level until we face it. I mean, look at, you just did an amazing trip, fearful stuff that was little, but look at the breakthroughs you had in that little piece of just cold water.
Huge.
I look at so many things that I avoided for years. I mean, even in my last relationship, I woke up for 7 years straight every morning, and the first thing I'd think about is like, when am I going to end this?
Oh my God, I know that feeling.
And
it's horrible.
It's a horrible feeling, but then that, even though I still had massive success in my life, massive gains, ran my company, that was still like a weight on my shoulders. Why do you think I had such a good year last year? If you had to look at it from the outside, you know me for about 6 years now. What do you think one of the reasons I had a great year?
I think you were. Relationship. You were in the right relationship, and you were excited about the relationship, and you were in integrity with yourself in the relationship. And so there's no weight. You're in complete freedom because you have everything you need with that.
I was hoping you said that, because I'm just in complete alignment. Like, there was a part of me that was a fraud. Even though the world didn't know, I knew it. Right? So all of a sudden, when you're in complete alignment, like the weight, you don't realize you were carrying around 200 pounds on your back, right? You wake up and you think about gratitude and where you can go and your compelling future. So I think it just all ties together. And the other thing too, I know Bill Gates says it and Tony Robbins says it, a lot of people say it, it's been around for a long time, but we all overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 5 or 10. And the next 5 years is gonna go by like that, no matter what, right? My last 5 years, like that. So no matter where you are, you might say, well, Dean, now you're 51, you went through all that stuff, you got money, but it all has to start at one moment. Like this podcast, I enjoy being with you so much, man. And I'm trying to get a lot out in a short period of time, but if you just take what serves you and throw the rest away, if you took anything from this podcast today, just know that we have to start someplace. And if you're in a rough spot, just decide to start today. Like, there's always a line in the sand where you could say enough is enough. Like, say yes to something you've been wanting to say yes to for a long time. Say no to something you've been dragging your feet on, because I know with me, my life was stuck for 7 years. Stuck. My income was stuck. Who I was as a parent, who I was as an example, who I was as a role model. I mean, what kind of role model would I have been if I stayed in that old relationship? I'm not advocating divorce, but for me, it wasn't the right relationship. I was living in a separate room. I was seeing other people on the side, and my ex knew it. Like, we had this thing, and it was so like, it was. And finally, when I just looked at it and said, no, there's no more excuses. I got to face this pain now. It was crippling until it just stopped. And then it was over. And then there was the next level of me. And, and now that I've faced that, nothing seems scary. I
love this stuff. This stuff I love to talk about. We've got a few minutes left, but I want to talk about financial freedom, because I know that financial freedom isn't the solution to happiness, but it sure as hell is a solution to a lot of things.
It sure is.
It may not be the solution to your fulfillment, but it can be the solution to a lot of suffering in the physical world.
Yeah, it sure can.
And I think, and you know, a lot of rich people that are extremely happy and fulfilled, and you know probably a lot of rich people that aren't happy and fulfilled based on their values and integrity and their mission and what they're doing. It's not everything, but it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think when you lack the financial freedom, you lack choices in your life. You lack the ability to do certain things, get rid of certain problems. You're more of You have to commit to certain things you don't want to commit to, all those things. You have to give up time in a certain way. So again, it's not the only thing, it's not everything, but it's pretty close to necessary for us to be able to have certain freedoms in our life when we maximize this. For the last 3 years, I had a mastermind that brought me a lot of financial freedom, but it also allowed me to impact a community of people on a massive way.
I've been to one of them, it's amazing.
Yeah, and you were an amazing teacher at it. And they were able to impact their audiences in a big way as well. So through impacting a smaller group.
Exponential impact.
It made an exponential impact and amazing income as well. You've got mastermind.com. A year ago, you launched this program with Tony Robbins that blew up the world. It's one of the biggest launches in the world not because it was you two only, yes, because both of you have this 60 years of experience together, but because it's not easy, but it's a simple solution to teaching people what you already know, like you said, teaching hair extensions if you're a hairstylist, to a group at a high price as opposed to doing one-on-one trading for your time.
Yep.
There's so many people out there that are doing masterminds now that are changing their financial freedom and at least bringing in a big chunk of change and impacting people in an exponential way. Can you share what this is all about, how we can get involved, and who masterminds are for and who it's absolutely not for?
Yeah, really great question. And I know we're all over the place today, and I love talking about this. It's just, it's hard to get it all out in a short period of time, especially you and I haven't seen each other. I want to catch up. But first off, on money. Here's the best way to look at money. The reason I drove so hard to make money in my life is because of my mother and my father. They both worked their tails off, for lack of a better word. Like, worked so hard. My mom and dad split when I was 3. My dad didn't help out. My mom had 3 jobs. Came home at 7 o'clock at night. Her back hurt, her feet hurt. Crappy jobs, like sweeping the floor and cleaning houses and cutting hair, like miscellaneous stuff, right? So I learned at an early age that hard work didn't equate to income. Now, since they worked so hard on that, they had no time for anything else. They didn't work on their health. They didn't work on relationships. There were 9 marriages between them because they never had the chance to work on themselves. Hustle, 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 pay the bills. And I lived in a trailer park. We got evicted from a trailer park. So I realized at a young age that money might not make you happy, but it allows you freedom to work on you. And I saw that. So my first desire was to get my mom retired. That was my rocket ship left. And in my 20s, I retired my mom. But not until I got to a point where money wasn't an issue, that's when I started working on me. That's when I looked inside and said, what are the beliefs I had? How do I work on my personal growth? So the one thing I could say about money is get it out of the way so you can find out who you're truly meant to be. Because if not, it's like, and it's the last thing I'll say, and I'll tell you what Tony and I are doing. If I said to you, have you thought about the oxygen in this room since we've been here? No, but if I put my hand on your throat and closed your windpipe, it'd be the only thing you think about.
Right.
The problem when you don't have enough money in your life, it consumes so much of your thinking. You can't create the perfect relationship, the perfect body, eat right, have a health coach. Those things don't happen. So for me,
you're in survival mode.
You're in survival mode, and it becomes this obsession, and since you have lack of it, you feel bad, you hate it, despise it, and want it all at the same time. It's like this crazy nonsense. Here's the thing. Make more money, give it all away after you get the lifestyle you want, if you want to, but see the freedom it gives you to become a better version of you. Simple as that. And that's the way I frame it and keep going. What Tony and I did, it's because self-education made such an impact on our lives, right? Both of us took that path. He learned from Jim Rohn, I learned from him. We went down this path, and now we came together after all these years because self-education is becoming the new norm. It's just not a thing. More people are joining masterminds and learning from other people more than ever before in history.
Courses, podcasts.
They're opting out of college. Or not going to college, or people not going back to college, and they're deciding, who can I learn? I'd rather learn from the professional doing it than the professional teacher in a classroom who's teaching it, right? And people, if you're listening or watching, everybody, someone that's in a mastermind in a group and their life is changing. Just like when I went to your group, all those lives changing. It was amazing. So we got together and said, if this is becoming the new norm, Forbes said it's heading to $1 billion a day. It's at 455, self-education. It's at 455 million. It's going to $1 billion a day. Wow. And we just decided, if this is going to be the new norm, who better than Tony and I? We have so much experience, 60 years between us, to create the blueprint on how to extract what you know and share it with others to impact their lives and get paid to do it. So, if I was just at Rachel Hollis' event, but I always ask this on stage when I go on now. I said, if you had 2 choices at the end of your life, you can make a massive amount of impact or a massive amount of money. Which one would you choose? I say money, no one raises their hand ever. Say impact, everybody. And I say leave your hand up if you'd like to do both. And everybody cheers.
Yeah.
But that's really what this industry allows you to do. Because whatever it is that you know, if you have a year in something, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, there's somebody today starting out at day one. And they can either learn through their own trial and error, they can go down the traditional education path that's not serving people, or you can extract what you know and share it in a Zoom training or an in-person workshop or a community or a group. They pay you higher money because they say, I could take 10 years to learn it or spend a weekend with Lewis. Right. Which one's more economical? And this is what's happening all over the world. Tony and I launched a course, The Blueprint, on how to do it. We're in 80 countries, 24,000 people strong. Crazy. Every niche you could possibly imagine. We have a Facebook group with 22,000 people, 167,000 messages a month.
Wow.
We just passed our 1100th video of people sending in, changing their life, because they're like, oh my God, people need what I'm good at. Because what we did is we realized most people are unconscious competence. Like they're good at something, just don't know how. So we created a process to extract it. And then once you realize, oh man, I am good at that. And then how to identify someone who needs it. We use social media instead of social media using you, and get people to say, hell yes, I want to pay you for that to go faster. And it's really become a movement.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you've got a free training coming out too.
We
right?
do. We're doing it once a year.
Okay.
So February 27th, we're going live again. Last time we had over 200,000 people show up.
Crazy. I remember the power of this
It
thing.
was unbelievable, and I think this year will be even greater.
Okay.
And I think
what's going to be on this?
We created a link for you. So don't be afraid. I think it's greatnesslink.com. If you go to greatnesslink.com, you can see it, check it out, reserve a spot and get there. But what we're going to do is show people the blueprint of, if you have a skill, a hobby, a passion, an expertise, or even if you went through an experience and you're on the other side, there's people out there dying for that knowledge. Yeah. So we show people how to extract that knowledge, and again, how to identify the perfect person that wants it, how to market to them, and how to run an event to train them. Whether that event is a half-hour Zoom or a half-a-day Zoom call or a 2-day in-person event. Because here's the thing, the knowledge industry is lots of things. It's podcasts, it's books, it's courses, it's coaching, all that's amazing. Yeah. I've done all of them. I'm a multiple New York Times bestselling author, but Tony and I wanted to say, like, how do we create a way to get the impact faster? A book's a bitch, lack of a better word. Every year and a half I write one, and it's like, oh, it's painstaking. It's awesome, and I think everybody should, but it's not the quickest way to make impact and profits, because it might take you a year and a half, and the truth is most people don't sell more than 1,000 books. 95% of all books in Barnes & Noble don't sell over 1,000 copies. Same kind of thing with a course.
And you might buy the book, but not get through the finish.
Exactly. Right? You're not impacting the lives of the depth that when people in your mastermind, they're sitting there and like they're implementing as they're in the room,
exactly.
right?
They're taking action. And you said, I think you said this, people don't pay attention until
they pay
for, right?
Yeah.
You pay attention to what you pay for.
Yeah, exactly.
And the more you pay for, you usually pay more
My most
attention.
successful students, the ones that pay the most, because they paid for it, they're going to pull it out. So books are amazing, but it's not that easy. Coaching's amazing, but it's more of a one-on-one. Like, I know a lot of trainers, they make $100 an hour, but still every hour is $100, right? It's not exponential. And courses are amazing, but you still have to have a company and do that right. So we said, how about we just teach people to extract what they know and run a mastermind or do an online training? And it's been magical, and it's happening faster and quicker than we ever could have imagined.
For me, masterminds as a student have been the most powerful investment of my time. It's not only learning from the coach or the teachers that are teaching you, it's the relationships you meet in the mastermind that are typically more profitable than sometimes the stuff you learn. It's the people you meet. I remember the first mastermind I attended about 10 years ago. I had made $500,000 the entire year before. I went to the mastermind because I got top 10 in a contest with Ryan Dice. And we got into this mastermind to be a part of this. And I met 5 relationships that weekend, and we made $250,000 that next month.
Wow.
So from 1 year, $500,000 to $250,000 the next month, from those 5 relationships, by partnering with them on some different things, that was a game changer for me, where I said, I need to be a part of masterminds. I need to join more. You need to make sure you find the right ones, because you can join the wrong ones. So make sure you find the right ones. And so it was huge for me as a business owner, an entrepreneur, to be a part of them, but it was also huge to start one. It put me on a whole different level of credibility. It was pretty much the easiest sale. Once you get to that level, it's easy to sell at a high ticket when you have the process that you guys give, because you give the whole process. and it's some of the most fun when you create
It is.
when you create a mastermind. So you guys create the whole process. You have everything there. You're going to be teaching some great stuff on the
because
on the training.
listen, think of anything successful, and I love that story about masterminds because they have changed my life. It's moved the needle more than any other thing, hands down. It's my unfair advantage. I started off saying that, right? So we want the world to listen. If you die someday with knowledge in your head, you should feel guilty, and that's what we want to make it. Let's extract what you know, impact others, get paid, do it over again, right? But I think what made this magical. Listen, there's a lot of courses, there's a lot of trainings, but because we have 60 years, because Tony's been doing this even 20 years longer than me, it has the 3 magical components. The first is the mindset. There's not many people better on the planet than Tony Robbins when it comes to getting your mindset right. You go to Date with Destiny, greatest event in the history of the world. It'll go down for 100 years. People will talk with it. The first part of the course puts you in a mindset where you are vibrating, you are unstoppable. And this year we put another 3 hours in of Tony. Brand new, just unique for this course, right? It's not repurposed. We shot it just for this course. So your mindset, you're like, I could break through rock right now, right? But then after that,
and you need that.
You need that
go for the,
because with the wrong mindset, nothing works, right? So you get the mindset. Then the middle part of the tactics. How do you, in a methodical way, extract what you know so you build up your confidence, say, this is what I'm good at. Then you build an agenda. Then you use our tools that we've discovered through our masterminds. And you build your training. You go, holy crap, this is what I'm good at. This is my training. And then I go deep. I don't think there's many people better than me at marketing. And I give the whole process on how to use social media they've already done all the work to find your perfect clientele. Now you just go in and say, Lewis fits, Diane fits, Denise fits, and attract the exact person who needs what you're good at, and then how to run it. So now we have the mindset and the tactics, but then we went one step further and we built the implementation tool. We spent $1 million now on the software. So you get fired up, you learn how to do it, and then you go over in the software and you build it. So it's like, I'm fired up, okay, here's how to do it, here's my page, hit submit, it's all of a sudden now it's up online, right? So that magical 3, and I've had a lot of courses that gave me the mindset, fired up, didn't know what to do. A lot of mindset with the tactics, but then like, well, where do I get Kajabi or do I get ClickFunnels or I'll do it later, and then you never do it.
It's too much.
So we're going to show how these 3 together really allow you to jump in this industry. Listen, it's heading to $1 billion a day, and it's one of those things. It's like when you watch people surf. Like right now is the time the wave's crested. You could be in front of it and let that wave push you, or it's like when you miss a wave and try to catch it. Like this is the time. I think this is it.
And it's never easier than it is right now.
I agree.
To launch it, to create it, and people want this information.
You don't have to beg them. They're looking for it.
People are reaching out to me all the time and saying, when are you going to recreate your mastermind? When are you going to open it up again? They want people who have the information. They want to learn from those people to replicate it faster with speed. And people are excited more than ever to invest in self-education than in traditional education. And that's why you got to jump in on this. I think it's really cool when you meet someone who's had a lot of experience in life, made so many mistakes, had a lot of success, failures over 20, 30 years now of you doing
over
business,
30,
and says, you know what, I want to take this information and simplify it and teach people how I did it. And I think that's it's inspiring when you meet someone who's done it, and then it's more inspiring when you meet someone who's done it and then tries to help others do it.
Well, for me, and the thing is, I mean, at this phase of my life, I appreciate you saying that, brother, because it's what saved my life. Like if I look at I've been blessed. I did well in real estate in my 20s, started with no money. That's really was my momentum. And I've written multiple New York Times bestselling books and all this stuff and failed miserably in between. But if I look back, what really saved my life was learning from other people. And at this time, how could I not want to give that back? It's what changes the world, right? I mean, I want to talk about it today because it's such a part of who I am and what Tony Robbins and I are doing right now. But at the end of the day, self-education is what saved all of us. I mean, this is what you give back to the world, man. I'm so proud of what you do, and to expose yourself to the world and bring on other people and deliver that value to people. It's a really noble thing. I mean, I don't know about you, but I do know a little bit because we talked about it. But in high school, my guidance counselor, I mean, legit sat me down. I wasn't taking my SATs. I knew I wasn't going to college. And she looked at me and she was just like, no, you're not? Are you sure? And I said, yeah. And so it went from no college, like that was going to be perfect. And I'm not saying college is bad for everybody, but like it was either, heaven's open and the sunbeams come through, right? And the angels sing, or she's like, oh, no college. Well, maybe you could work with your dad fixing cars. She knew my dad didn't make a lot of money. Or go apply at the only factory in town for minimum wage. That was the two options she gave me, right? So how many people are there out there right now that if the regular path's not working, they think there's no other path, or go working at a gas station? And I'm not knocking if you work at a gas station. I'm just saying that's the way my supposed guidance counselor looked, and what saved me was the third option that I didn't know existed until I knew, was self-education, learning from other people. I found a couple older people in my town and became friends with them.
Great
I saw
mentors,
that, like they became mentors. And then I bought Tony Robbins' course, and then Wayne Dyer and Eckhart Tolle, and I started going down this path. I'm like, oh my God, and it changed my life. So I owe such a debt of gratitude to self-education. So it's a pleasure to give it back. And
if you didn't have mentors and you didn't have books or places you could learn information, where do you think you'd be?
I'd still be working on cars. I mean, that's just a true story. And here's the thing, what's cool now is why the world has changed. So I'm not a gazillion years old, but being 51 right now, if I look back when I was in my 20s and wanted to do more. So I had dyslexia.
51? You
51.
look 40, man.
What's that?
You
Yeah,
look 40.
I'll take that. Well, my wife makes me look young, so that's really good. But in my 20s, I knew there was more. I was going after. I was a hustler. Hands down, I was a hustler. I was running away from a broke, painful, young, lifestyle. When I was young, I didn't like that lifestyle. I was running away from it. So I was working hard. Yeah. And when I wanted to find a mentor, there was no podcast. I couldn't go listen to Lewis Howes.
Right. No YouTube shows.
There was no YouTube shows. There was no Instagram. There was no Facebook. And I had dyslexia really bad, so I hated reading. There was no audiobooks. Right. So back then it was like, if you don't find a mentor and you're not good at reading, you're screwed, right? So I was lucky enough to watch an infomercial. Everybody asked me, why'd you go in the infomercial business 20 years ago? Because I watched an infomercial. Tony Robbins took my money. He gave me information. It changed my life. I'm like, I want to do that. So that's why I went in that business. So if I wasn't lucky enough to be up late one night and watch Tony's infomercial and then go down this path of like, holy crap, there's people out there that get good at something and then they extract it and share it. Like I cut them a check and they give me knowledge. Once I understood that you could pay for speed, game changer for life. And then I got obsessed. I'm obsessed on it. Masterminds is something I do on a regular basis. We own Mastermind.com.
Right.
We're teaching the world how to do masterminds and extract what they know, because it's the biggest needle mover there is.
It's funny you said that, paying for speed, because in football, the saying is, you can't teach speed.
Oh, got it.
You'll find guys that run the 4.3 and the 40, but have horrible hands, because you can teach them the other stuff. Speed is the thing you can't teach in sports. You either kind of got it, you can get to a certain point, but it's hard to really get past that, the next point.
Yeah.
But in business or in life, you can teach speed.
Yeah, it's the ultimate unfair advantage. It's like, it's this thing that lives out there, and the people that know about it are the ones that are doing better and they're going faster, and you don't know why. Right? It's like two people own a restaurant across the street from each other. One's killing it, one's not. Guaranteed, one's in masterminds, or one's learning from somebody, or one has a mentor, or one goes to a live event, or has a coach, and the other one's trying to figure out through trial and error.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at what we have as options to learn to go faster, whether that's, you want to make more money to give it all away. You want to make more of an impact. You finally want to start that business you have, or your business is doing okay, but there's that next level. Like you see the person next door, like they're doing it. There's a couple ways to get there. You go back to school, kind of the traditional path, and we could talk about that. It's just an antiquated system. It's not working anymore. It's not delivering what people need. It did at one point, but it hasn't evolved. And people know that. That's why there's a huge exodus from college right now.
Right.
Or we have trial and error. You figure it out on your own, and that can be the most costly, time-consuming. And besides time-consuming and costly, the worst thing about trial and error is everybody has a threshold where they finally get to a point and give up and go back to what they knew. Right? It's like you're trying. I'll pay the bills over here, but I'm trying. The business is doing okay. I'm trying. It's like that's not working. I'll go back.
And then give up.
And there's a certain point in life where people just try, and then they hit this flat spot and they coast forever. Like they don't die till they're 100, but really at 37, they gave up and they weren't growing, right? But what most people are missing is this whole other world of self-education, right? Whatever it is you want to do. You want to learn, my wife is the #1 hairstylist in Arizona for the last 8 years. You want to learn how to do extensions and have make 10 times more than the average hairstylist. You could try to figure it out. You can go to cosmetology school and go work for somebody. You could do it trial and error, or you could spend a weekend with my wife and make several $100,000 rather than the $28,000 that's the norm. Like, just using that as an example, but it's every niche that exists in the world. If you're starting off at day one, there's somebody out there that's got 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and if you can extract what they know, decades into days, kind of Tony Robbins always says that, you get to start off where they left off.
So I'm curious, you're 51 years young now. You've been through lots of different business growth, failures, successes, different things. You've had lots of money, you've lost some money, you've made more money. You were married, divorced, new marriage. You have kids from a previous marriage. You've got a kid coming in a new marriage. What's the greatest lesson you've learned in the last, since you turned 50, about intimate relationships that have applied towards business relationships?
Great question. And I have no, especially because of our relationship, I have no problem sharing this.
I know you typically want to talk about this.
But it's a really good question because, again, not to go back to Tony, but he's my dear friend. And when I was 48, he said to me something that no one ever asked. He said, who are you going to become in your 50s? Because everybody always talks about what you're going to accomplish. And he said that, and it kind of sticks in my head. And, who I've become that in a relationship that's related to business, empathy is probably the biggest word, compassion. And there's a time where I wasn't sure, like, I think empathy or compassion could seem like weakness, right? And what I realize now that I know this sounds crazy, but maybe to some people, not to most, especially people who listen to you, but love's the answer to everything. It really is. Like, when you love your business, when you love your employees, when you love the impact you're making on people, when you love your wife, when you love your kids, it's an easy word to throw out there. But when you truly understand it on the other side of all the craziness that we've tried to figure out what love is, it changes the game. And listen, I'm gonna back up here. Because you threw me for a loop, and I want to give listen. If people are gonna spend time with us today, there's a million podcasts they can be listening to. They're listening to you. I want this to be one like, holy crap! I'm so glad I listened to Lewis and Dean. But I want to break down something. This might be a little different than your question, but the difference between men and women, and why I think you asked me this question, so I'm going down this road. Why I think 2020 is the start and the year of the woman entrepreneur. Of the woman's success, and this is what I learned from my wife, so it'll tie back to your question. And I say that because, and I might not be politically correct, and I'm not perfect, if I say this wrong, I apologize, but the balance between women's opportunities and men's wasn't always where it should be. Let's just face it, right? It was stacked in our favor. But I think we're getting closer. Maybe it needs a lot more evolution, but I think it's closer. We can both agree it's closer now than ever before in history, right? And I think women finally, it's not that they don't need permission. I think it's a time where women who have more empathy, just born with it, more compassion, and I think more instinct than men, right? I don't know about you, but if you're listening right now, ask your husband, or you have your wife, or your grandmother, or your mother, or your sister. Has there ever been a time you brought somebody around and your wife or girlfriend said to you, I don't think he's a good guy, don't do business.
She says this to me all the time.
And you're like, no, he's good. And what happens 6 months later? You're like, hey, babe, that guy wasn't so good. You're right. But their instinct is unbelievable. Their empathy and compassion is unbelievable, right? So, and this ties back to the guys too. But if you think about that, for those years, a lot of times that was used in relationships. It was used for their children. Now it's being used for the world. And simultaneously, we're in a place in society where we're so done with the get rich overnight, get skinny overnight, fall in love overnight, intimacy in 2 seconds, read this book. Like, we want real so bad. So I think we're at this point where the playing field is more level, and the innate abilities that women have is what the world is craving. That's why even in the program Tony and I have, it's more women than men crushing it.
Really?
We're about 57% women just destroying it, like making such an impact on the world because they tend to be more just real and genuine, where a lot of times with guys, we're aggressive. We go in, we start selling before we kind of know. We want to make a change before we really understand it. So with that said, being in a relationship where I made mistakes in the past in a relationship, my relationship ended, I'll take just as much responsibility as my ex, and I needed to grow. But when I ended that relationship, instead of thinking, I need to find a better woman, someone who, fits me, and I was lucky enough to see that I needed to become a better man.
Wow.
And I worked a lot on myself. And when I decided, and I wrote down on a piece of paper, the only relationship I would accept I found my wife. And we're 3 years in. It's the best relationship of my life. We fall more in love every day. But you asked me that question, going through the pain of a divorce, which was mostly painful because of my kids. My ex and I knew our relationship was done years ago, but I went through a divorce in my childhood. My parents went through a bunch of divorces. So I didn't want to put that on them. But going through that pain was actually the greatest thing, because on the other side, just if you're starting a business, in a relationship, trying to lose weight, like the pain of going through it made me realize I had to become better, and I was able to attract the greatest love of my life. And then now that I look at her with this love and admiration, and I respect her so much, that when I see her empathy, when I see her instinct, I trust it on a level I never did before. Then I take those lessons, I push them back out to the world, I put them in my courses, I share it on my podcast, and all of a sudden people are like, I don't know about this new version of you, Dean, but I love it. I see it in you.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Everybody's like, this new version of you, and it's not just love. Love is amazing, but it's love and respecting what I see in her, and when I give it to the world, I see everything lift, right?
What's the keys to deepening your relationship in a intimate relationship, long-term relationship, marriage, and falling more in love with the person or the relationship that you can also translate into business as well?
Yeah,
how do you do it in your relationship and your marriage now?
So I would say,
because it didn't work before, and now it is working.
Just so you said, a couple years in, looking for the next business, that's how I felt in last relationships. I'll be transparent and say that to you. And it's the complete opposite now, because I had enough of that pain to realize that doesn't lead anywhere. So that's probably time on this earth to realize that there's never a time where I said, oh, this is so great. It's like you look back and you're like, that was just dumb. It was a dumb decision. Like I was always searching for, say, the perfect business when I needed to be the perfect business owner, right? So if you're dabbling and saying, oh, should I work on Shopify? Should I write a book? Should I create a course? Should I do masterminds? Sometimes we're looking for the outside thing to make it great when really it's us. And so I think that's time on this earth, and I know I had to go deep inside. The second thing, just like a business, is burn the boats. Like, I never burned the boat. I always left one boat in the harbor. You know what I mean?
A few boats here and there.
You know, with the engine running, right? This relationship is so magical to me. And let me back up. When I said this is what I must have in a relationship, and this is what I can't accept in a relationship, and I found that, and I found this connection, I found this love, I burned the boats. And I also did, I think they use this in like 12-step program, but I did like fantasy contamination. Like the way I love this woman, I say this because she's here in the room with us right now, there's nothing I can compare that would want me to compromise that love. When she walks in a room, the only man she looks at is me. I screw that up once, she might still be with me. What if she didn't look at me that way? What if she didn't love me on that level? So I think through, okay, what if I even just flirted with this girl? What if I just text back to a girl that hit me up just to say hi? I'm like, what if she saw that? And then the next time she looked at me, it just didn't have that luster. So I think of that and I contaminate all of it and I burn the boats and there's zero options.
Wow. What do you call it? Fantasy contamination?
Fantasy contamination. I heard it someplace, so I'm just going with it.
Right.
But I do and none of them would be more rewarding than this. So burn the boats. First of all, make sure you're in the right relationship. Burn the boats. Stay in your swimming lane. And proximity. That's a great one. That was great advice I got from somebody, is proximity. Like I used to travel all the time, do events, thousands of people, and always be alone. Always, always, always. And the truth is, not that I have any temptation, but I don't want to be alone. I want to grow with my woman. So there's everything I do. And I mean, she's sitting with me now. If I'm on stage, there's 8,000. We just did an event with 8,000 women, Rachel Hollis's event. When I got the audience going crazy, cheering, clapping. They're waiting in line to do it. When I look over, I'm at my wife right there. And that's my woman. That's my everything. And when I'm on stage, when I'm on a podcast, I am not. Before, in previous relationships, I barely talked about my relationships.
Right. I don't think I ever heard you talk.
No, I never did. There's not a time I'm on stage, I'm out in public, and here's this crazy thing, and you know this with your business, and take it back for your business. The more you talk about something,
with
the more
excitement, with
but
love.
You don't just anchor it into the world, you anchor it into yourself. So with my team, my office, we have 70 people in my team. Every day, Lewis, I talk about how we're changing lives. We're making self-education the new norm. It's our responsibility to create an alternative to the education system. Our clients aren't leads. They're not somebody you just sell. These are human beings and they're putting their faith in us to help change your life. This is a responsibility. We get to change lives for a living. I say it so much that I know when people first start working, they're like, oh, this guy, Dean, I hear it. But you give it 6 months, I walk in like, Dean, we changed 2,700 lives this month. Because it became part of it, because it's what I spoke out to the world.
It seems like there's a common denominator for every millionaire or successful person that we know. That they always had something dark happen, or multiple dark things happen. And something that drives them, whether it's the greatest athletes in the world, the biggest, billionaires in the world, there was something that defined them early on, or some things that defined them. I'm curious, what were the 3 moments when you were a kid that really defined you to be this driven, hungry person, to originally just make sure that money wasn't an issue.
Yeah, really great question.
And want to continue to grow and reach $1 billion in sales in all your businesses and impact the world, because that doesn't happen just if you have a happy, normal life. Yeah. In my opinion.
And you know what? A really great question, Louis. And here's what happens over time. Some of that goes away and you craft a new story.
Of course.
I did it because I wanted to change the world. I'd lie if I said that was true.
But there's usually some defining moments that usually happen when you're 5, 10, 7, whatever. I
know some of them. One is my mom did work. This sounds like an infomercial story. My mom worked 3 jobs. She was a hairstylist. She cleaned houses and then cleaned up after a painter, right? And she did those 3 jobs. And I asked her to this day, she made about $90 a week. Because she barely got out of high school. She had dyslexia that wasn't diagnosed. My mom's a beautiful woman inside and out, unbelievably gorgeous, heart, soul, all of it. But she always felt dumb. Like she failed every grade. She quit school in the 11th grade because she was so embarrassed to go. And so she kept that stigma inside. And I remember being really young and watching her come home from work tired as hell at 7 o'clock. My parents split when I was 3. So we were living in a trailer park. My fiance's here. I took her to the trailer park that I was living in. And we'd come home, latchkey kids, when we were like 6 and 8. Because, my grandma would come a lot. My grandmother was amazing. So she was there a lot too. So we weren't
So you were just with your mom. Dad, was your dad in the picture? Or no?
Every other weekend.
Okay, you saw him, but it wasn't. Yeah.
And just watching her, I can remember, Luce, I don't want to exaggerate, but I moved in with my dad when I was 12. I think I look back at that. I was like 7 or 8. And I remember saying, there's no way I'm letting this happen to my mom. I am doing this.
Wow.
My mom was my original, I'm taking care of her. There's no way I'm letting her work this hard. And it broke my heart. Like, if I look back, my heart was broken all the time watching her come home. And she wouldn't complain, but she was just tired, So I remember thinking, I'm getting wealthy to solve that problem. I mean, young.
At 7, 8, 9
yeah, 7 years old. I mean, I had an Uncle Larry who was very, he went to college. His kids went to college. And I just didn't, from 9 years old, 10 years old, that's just the path I knew I wasn't going to college. I didn't think I was that smart. My family didn't have money. I'm like, I just wanted money out of the way. Like, it wasn't like, today's world has changed a little bit with social media, right? There was no such thing as the internet when I was that age, right? This is 40-something years ago, right? And I think money has gotten a bad rep a little bit more because I didn't have guys,
photos
flashing
of
the
everything.
money. Yeah, like driving the Lambo or in the private jet, or the look at me and the Rolexes, so the champagne pop in the nightclubs. I didn't even know that world existed, Louis. We didn't have money. I lived in a blue collar town. Nobody I knew had money, so it wasn't like I was saying I'm getting rich because I want to roll.
You just wanted to help your mom stop suffering.
I wanted my mom not suffer. And man, that's him. And the one thing I love telling people, and again, you may have heard this, but maybe today is the first time you actually hear it. It's okay to be in pain over something. Just don't ignore it. The biggest plight we all do to ourselves, I think, the biggest negativity we do to ourselves is we avoid the things that bother us. What I believe is let that pain sink in. If you get moving to start your own business, to scale the company you have, to finally quit the job that's draining you, if it's because of pain, use it. Like, so many times when people listen to you and all the amazing people you've brought to the world, Louis, I love what you do, man. I mean it. I'm really proud to be your friend.
Thank you.
I love watching what you do. I love watching you grow. So many times we'll get into personal growth and we start thinking compelling future. I got to look ahead. I got to stay positive. I got to be the man. I got to be this woman that keeps it in control. And everything is good. I'm blessed. I'm happy. I'm alive. Like sometimes that's just bullshit. Sometimes life sucks. And what I realized, what moved me as a kid had nothing to do with a compelling future. It had nothing to do with aspirational quotes. It had nothing to do with meditation. It had to do with I hated where the freak my life was. I hated watching my mom, and I was fixing that shit. And it bugged me every day. Like, it bugged me. And
until you were like 16, 18.
yeah, and like I was hustling. I 13, 14 years old, I used to go around the neighborhood and clean out people's garages. And then I'd take all that and I'd do a massive garage sale.
Wow. That's cool.
So 13, and my gram was the bomb. My gram would drive around, have her trunk up. I'd clean out the garages. It mostly was her friends, right? So I'd clean up like, oh, that's garbage, that's garbage, that's garbage. I'm like, you want to sell that? Like, oh, I can't give that away. Like, I'll sell it. I'll give you half. Like, okay, this is before eBay. It didn't exist. That was eBay on my gram's front yard, right? So she lived a little bit off the highway. I'd put a sign, yard sale. Man, I'd be out there on Saturdays learning how to sell. Because people had no mercy. I was a young kid doing it. They'd still come $5, I'll give you $2. It's like, make it $4, So I was negotiating that. And then at 16, I started a firewood company. I cut trees down, split it, stacked it in the back of a truck, and delivered it for $90 a cord.
Wow. Are you chopping it with the
chainsaw and a log splitter? And,
wow. Not manual. Like
No. It wasn't, what do they call it? Like,
just an axe.
Yeah, it wasn't the axe. I wasn't big enough for that.
Exactly.
So that one motivator was my mom, for sure.
So that was the first thing. What was the second thing? Moment or defining experience?
I didn't have money in school. It was like when I moved in with my dad, I was 12 years old. My dad, my dad was the youngest of 12, and was physically and sexually abused his whole childhood.
Yeah.
And back in those days, there was no therapy, talk therapy, nobody, not going to a counselor.
Just suck it up.
Have the ability to talk like you and I talked when we were jogging.
Yeah.
Men back then didn't talk. My dad's 83 now. He wouldn't go to his best bud. Oh my God. When I was 5 years old or 7, I was molested by my cousin. No one knew. In the old days, they'd be like, get away from,
Yeah.
So he didn't talk about it. So what he had this built up anger his whole life, and no one was able to take advantage of him. Like if the waiter was rude to him, he'd be fist fighting on the floor with the waiter, right? If we were driving in traffic one day and the flag guy during construction, he didn't wave to my dad. He was like looking at somebody else. My dad drove by and he goes, "Hey asshole, didn't you see me?" And my dad literally jumped out and just beat him.
Oh my gosh.
That was my dad. He was infuriated with everybody because he was this young kid who got abused and no one was there to protect him, and nobody was doing that now. So he lived with that, and he's in an amazing place right now, and I love him dearly. But when I was 12 or 11, it was so bad that I was afraid. I was just afraid. Like I was nervous for him, and I wanted to help him. So at 11, I left my mom and moved in with him. Mm-hmm. And when I moved in with him, I legit, this is, again, sounds like some infomercial story. I moved in the back. I literally had a house with no heat because he was remodeling and he ran out of money. And he was working on it. So we had to literally drag a bed into a bathroom at night and plug in a little electric heater. And that wasn't forever, but it was for months. And when I moved in with him, I wasn't poor me. I didn't know anything different. It was fine. And I learned a lot by living with my dad, and the good, the bad. I learned how to negotiate and all those things. But some days I'd go to school without lunch money. And there was a point, and this is okay too. I'm not anywhere near that now, but there was a point where when I saw people with money, or like when everybody turns 16, a lot of kids in school, their parents got them a new car. Yeah. And
I remember
money. They had the new girl, the car, and then they'd get the cheerleader. And I'm the guy going home every day working with my dad. I worked every single day. I worked on cars. I worked on construction. And like, I remember being like, you know what? You can't hear me now, but you'll hear me someday.
Wow.
In my high school yearbook, literally my quote is like, I might be silent now, but someday, like, it'd be impossible not to hear me. Like, I got to get the quote. I just found my yearbook. Damn it, it's old. It's from 1986. Like, oh my God. But anyway, I want to read the quote, but it was something like, you don't hear me now, but someday you'll hear me roar. Wow. And I had this like internal chip. Like, I was really shy, polite to everybody. I called every one of my parents' friend Mr. or Mrs. I still do when I see them. Like, I wasn't like, yo, I got this. It was more like, oh, yes. And I probably looked really like not weak, I don't even know the word, like just really like an introvert and shy and like but I was hungry with a chip on my shoulder on the inside. Like, you don't hear me now. You got the car, you got the girl, I got you. Like, and so that was probably another one too, is envy.
Sure.
And I say like envy is toxic. It's completely toxic, but it's a good
driver.
It's a good driver,
Yeah.
right? Like, just think, like, you can't putt with a driver, but it's okay to smash a ball off the tee, right?
Yeah.
So if you need envy to smash the ball off the tee, then use it. Like, again,
Usually get you going.
yeah, like, personal growth is my life. I mean, I'll tell that story in a little bit, but personal growth is my life, and self-education. Tony Robbins, who's now one of my best friends in the world, he changed my life when I was in my mid-20s when I ordered his course. Like, I was already financially successful.
Yep.
I already had a car business, a collision shop, an auto sales. I had 21 apartments.
At 26?
At 24.
24.
Yeah, 24. I had 21 apartments. I had I had 2 tow trucks. I had a tow truck company. I had Enterprise and Hertz rental car account. And
how'd you have the money to fund all these things?
Yeah, I'll tell you that in a minute. So I got to that. But up until that point, I was suffering to get there, like working night and day, stressing all night. Now, you know exactly what I'm talking about, man.
course.
When you're starting,
Yeah.
when you were on your sister's couch and you're thinking of going, all of a sudden you get
don't
going.
stop.
You don't stop, and then you're up at 2:00 in the morning solving problems, and you think that's the way you do. I got a competitive edge because I can stay up all night. I can stress more than
Then
anybody.
you get
worry.
overweight and
I'm worried more than anybody else. So up until that point, I was on my way to already at a millionaire from where I was a kid. But I was doing it through suffering. And, I gave Tony Robbins money off an infomercial. It's the reason I went in the infomercial business.
Wow.
I gave him a check. He gave me information. Everybody told me I was nuts. Like, you bought something off of some huckster on TV, which people probably have said about me in the past. I bought it. I went through it. I thought I was going to listen to it over like a month. And I just obsessed over like 7 days. I digested every piece. And it was just so profound. No one I had ever talked to, and this is a true story, no one I had ever talked to in my entire life talked this way. Talked about people this way, about obstacles this way, about challenges this way, about your past.
Belief systems,
and belief system and limiting beliefs. And your past is designed for you to make you strong. And you know what? I just believed him. Like, I didn't question anything because I saw my dad worked hard, but he wasn't rich, and he suffered every day. And if I take on my dad's thoughts, I get to work hard and suffer. If I listen to this guy, it just seemed like a different path. And then he introduced me to Wayne Dyer and Eckhart Tolle and John Wooden and all these other people. And all of a sudden, life, self-education exploded. But let me go back to your original question. 1 was my mom. 2 was envy. Mm-hmm. I would say the third thing was probably and completely wanting control of my life. Mm-hmm. Like, I know I said that, and there's probably another one I'm hoping something else comes to me, but I know for a fact what drove me more than anything was I hated not being in control. And I love my parents, but I just felt like they made bad decision after bad decision. I didn't want to listen to them on where I lived. I got my own apartment when I was in 12th grade. Like, I didn't like their decisions, and I figured if I got money, no one can tell me how to live. No one can tell me what to do, how to talk. And the truth is I still feel that way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want anybody to tell me when I can go pick up my kids from school or take them on vacation. I coach Little League. I coach softball today. I scheduled this with you at 1. I'm going to jump on a plane because at 6:30 is my son's game, and at 7:45 is my daughter's softball game. I'm not missing either one of them. And there's nothing or no one that could tell me I'm not going to be there, right? That's just an exaggeration of what my life is. But there was a point where money will allow me to be in control of my decisions. Mm-hmm. And I still believe that. Yeah. I still believe that.
And I know that you had you told me stories about being like picked on and bullied and, because you were a smaller kid. And so people would try to pick on you or, pick fights with you, things like that. I know you dealt with some sexual trauma as well when you were younger. And I'm assuming all those other factors made you want to have control as well. I don't have control of what people are saying to me or how they're treating me or they're taking advantage of me and physically or sexually or emotionally.
Yep.
And wanting that control was probably it's a driving factor too.
Now that we talk about it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Between parents how to be in control and those types of things, it's like, again, like, I don't know it would be healthy to have the emotions I had that got me started, but whatever emotions it takes to move use them.
Listen, just get started. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know, again, I don't want to repeat stuff, but it's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym over the weekend and you're in great shape for the rest of your life. You got to work out every day. Personal growth is hearing it and implementing it every day.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'll say, looking back in retrospect, being 50 this year, I've had the best love of my life. You know, my fiance, I'm madly in love. My kids are in an incredible place at 10 and 12 years old. My company doubled in the last year since I've love in my life. I mean, and I'm blessed to say I'm really successful. We doubled in the last 12 months. But here's what I know. When I look at every phase of my life, what allowed me to go to the next level was facing the thing I was most afraid of.
So true.
And
so true.
Yeah, and I know from our conversations, like literally.
So what were you most afraid of 12 months prior? Or in the last 2 years that allowed you to double in that phase, at least.
So
double in your relationship, by upgrading with what you wanted in partnership, business.
Yeah, so I'll be personal with you. I look back at what I was afraid of not working with my dad when I was a kid, because my dad was like, "You're going to be my partner in this collision shop," and I hated the way he ran a company. I hated that he yelled at customers. I hated, but like every time I'd go to leave, he'd like go nuts on me. Like my dad was very physical, but not with me, but mentally like abusive. And at 14 years old, 12 years old, I was throwing up blood. I had a bleeding ulcer at 12 because I was so worried about my dad, right? So I was so afraid of leaving my dad. And then one day I literally told him, and I got in a fist fight with my dad. And it's not really a fist fight. He hit me and swung at me. And then he said, F you. And he left. And I didn't see him for 2 years. And when he left is when I took the collision shop we were in. And I went and I solicited and I got Enterprise Rent-A-Car after knocking on the door. I got Hertz Rent-A-Car, started generating that money. Now I hired more people in my collision shop, more money to buy cars and put on the front, started making more money with that. I went and bought my first piece of real estate, my 5th piece, my 10th piece. Then I started to buy raw land, subdivide it.
Wow.
Then I started selling raw land. I'm like, why don't I build the houses? I started a housing company, all from 20 to 27.
Wow.
I did all that without him as my partner.
Because he left,
my life changed forever.
Wow.
And then I was grateful for the whole circumstance, and I brought him back in as my partner, and I've been giving him money. I give my dad a check now for 20 years, 25 years. I've been giving my dad a check every single week, buy him his cars, buy him his houses, everything, right?
Wow.
But the only way that happened is I faced my biggest fear at the time.
Which was what?
Which was disappointing my dad and him going nuts on me, him not talking to me, listen, it's an age-old thing. My dad not accepting me, not proud of you, dad thinking you're a failure, right?
So him leaving, what did that do for you emotionally?
It made me want to show him he was wrong, right? I'd love to say I had this epiphany and I aligned my chakra. No, none of that.
You wanted to prove your dad wrong.
You.
I want to make more money than you could have ever made.
Did. Yeah, and then I asked him to be my partner.
Wow.
And that felt good. Just
be
honest, it felt good. He told
wrong.
me I was a dreamer. He told me I'd lose everything, and I proved him wrong.
Yeah.
And he came back really humble, and I told him
that's
I loved
nice.
him. Yeah.
It's funny because I always tell people that proving people wrong or others wrong is the second most powerful driver.
It is.
For me, my whole life was just, I'm going to prove everyone wrong about everything about me, about my athletic ability, about making money, about whatever, relationships. And at the end of the day, it feels really good in the middle, but it never feels fulfilling at the end.
No, it doesn't. But it can be that catalyst to take off.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And Lou, I would say I'm enjoying that. Like I love this just real conversation we're having. I know we're going a lot of directions, but one thing I want to say is so many people watching or listening right now think of themselves as an underdog, right? I didn't have family who supported me, don't have money, grew up in the wrong place, I live in the wrong country, wrong time, wrong president, wrong this, wrong that, right? And I'd love for you to think about that today and how you could turn being an underdog into an advantage. You see, most people, Louis, because you're sitting here massively successful, impacting lives all over the world, there was a time when people said you can't, you're wrong, and you wanted to prove them wrong, but some of you is like, maybe I can't. And there was a point, and I don't know the time this happened, but there was a point where when people told me I couldn't, and family members, my own sister, my mom, my dad, my friends, everybody thinking I'm crazy, I'm a dreamer. I was like the dreamer of the bunch because I was always going after more. I didn't have the right college degree. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the pedigree. I lived in the wrong area. But there was this moment, and I'd love to say I had this epiphany or someone gave it to me, but there was this moment when I felt the power of you can't. So people told me I couldn't, and I kind of believe them. Even if you believe 5%, it knocks you off your confidence zone, right? We don't do anything without confidence. You weren't good at football without confidence. You didn't get the girl without confidence. You didn't start the business without money, without confidence. So I was lack of confidence, and one day it started fueling my confidence, and I started having this internal dialogue. When people told me I can't, I might look at them with the same face, but on the inside I'm like, screw you. You have no idea. You have no idea who you're saying. And so I've turned that into like the power of you can't. And there's times where people start telling me, and I can't control it. At least even at this age, we've been in places and go, oh, that market's oversaturated, and I start smiling. Like, because I've trained myself to enjoy when someone says I can't, right? Anyway, I digress on that, but think of being an underdog as an advantage, and it changes everything. So getting back to your question, two things. Like, that was a really big fear of mine, losing my dad, right? Sometimes the thing we have to face is the thing that's not so painful because we found a way to avoid it. We found a way to avoid the bad relationship, avoid the bad job, avoid a super negative, toxic person in your life, avoid that you're in a situation financially that's really painful, and you find a way to go, no, this is how I'm meant to be. No, it's bullshit. You found a story. Like, I love The Untethered Soul with Michael Singer, right? When he talks about having a thorn in your arm. Like, it's painful to pull it out, so it's best to put something over, put a patch over it, then build a bigger apparatus, and always protect it. Don't hit it. When you walk through the woods, don't let the branches hit it. He said the only way through is freaking turn, grab it, and yank it out. It's going to hurt. But then once it's gone, and you know this, once you get through that pain, all of a sudden there's another level of life.
Yeah,
and
you start to heal.
And I want to share this on the most personal side of this. We're sitting here. You know my fiance. You've known me for a while now. And I was in a relationship that wasn't the right relationship for me for a really long time. My ex and I, she's a great lady. This has nothing to do with her. Nothing but kudos for her. She's a great mom, good lady. But we just didn't align, and not fine. It wasn't like massive love and then it fell apart. It just was never there. But we built a friendship, and we built a way to coexist because of my childhood and my parents being married 9 times. All I kept saying is, I can't do this to my kids. I can't do this to my kids. And I'd find a way to work hard and be super dad. Like, that's what, as Tony said to me, he's like, you're letting that be the only thing that fills your love bucket. And I remember, and I guarantee if you're listening right now, I was a broke kid. You guys know my story. I lived in a trailer park. I lived in a bathroom. And all of a sudden, I'm a guy who's sold millions of books, multiple New York Times bestseller, been on TV for 20 years, generate hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, live in the best house in town. Like, everything seemed great. I have this amazing team that I love. I have incredible friends. We have mutual friends. So I had all this great stuff. And the only thing that wasn't good in my life that I was kind of like avoiding, and I was a hypocrite, was love. I didn't have real love.
Wow.
And I didn't have real connection.
For how long?
And 10 years.
Wow.
And I hid that part. And
you didn't talk about it. You kind
no,
of just
like, if you ever watch
it.
any of my own stuff, I've been on video for 20 years. I talk about everything. I never talked about a relationship. I never even talked about being married.
Really?
I never talked about anything but my kids. I didn't talk about love because I felt like a fake.
Yeah.
In Italian, I felt like a fugazi. Like, I'm not going to talk about that when I don't have that figured out. And I'll be honest, I was unfaithful in my old relationship because my heart was so aching for affection, for attention. And one day, is it okay to go down the story?
Yeah, of course.
One day, like, I thought about leaving this relationship for 5 years every day of my life. And I'd look at my kids and go, I can't. And I say that because, and some people might say, that's smart, that's bad, that's good. I'm just telling you like it is. You can judge me any way you want. I'm an engaged dad. I made breakfast every single day. I pick my kids up from school. I have Sunday meetings. Like, the thought of not, like, every other, like, we split the kids right down the middle, but I'm like, the thought of having my kids half the time just wasn't acceptable to me until it was no longer an option. And one day I just realized it was like that moment that this is it had to end.
Wow.
So I did it.
What was the moment?
Just enough.
Couldn't take it anymore.
Like, it's like that. It's just the build.
10
The pressure cooker just popped.
Wow.
And my ex, she knew it was time too. It wasn't like, I'm shocking you. She's like, I know.
You talked about it probably. You addressed it, yeah.
So I've only shared this a few times in my entire life, but I said a reference before because this is the way I felt. I felt like there was this champagne bottle, like, taking up space. Like, I never really let love in. I've been loved before, but I never was like deep
received love.
Yeah, I received. And I think it's because like this champagne bottle where I tucked in being molested at 7 years old, where I tucked in a bleeding ulcer at 12 that I never told anybody that my dad had real bad issues. He was super dad and crazy dad. And when he was crazy dad, it drove me. So I tucked that in, and I tucked feeling inferior, and I tucked feeling insecure, and I tucked in a bad relationship. And I move into my own place, and I walk up the stairs. Now you understand, the kids are always around. It's loud. You haven't had kids yet, but someday I hope you're blessed with it. It's amazing. But I'm in this house. I rent this big house, and I'm walking, and it's quiet. Like you could hear a pin drop. And I walked up the stairs, and I saw my daughter's shoes, but she wasn't there. And I can get emotional right now because I felt like at that moment that the top on the champagne bottle came off and all of it came out. Like it exploded. And for the first time in my life, I had an anxiety, I had a panic attack. I couldn't breathe. And it lasted for 6 months. I was a mess, Lewis, for 6 months. And I didn't want my ex back. I knew that was over. I was a mess of thinking I'm gonna do everything to my kids that I didn't want done to me, and I just went in this really bad place. Like I thought I was broken for life. I really did. I thought I had this great run till 47 or whatever age I was, but this is it. Like I'm never going to be the same. I was popping Xanax 2 or 3 days a week. I'm just being honest. Like I'd love to say no. I was meditating. I was journaling. I was working out. I was jogging. I jumped on a plane. Spent 3 days with my buddy Tony Robbins. He helped me through like amazing. Immersed his life with me. I went and saw my buddy Dr. Daniel Amen. Spent 2 days with Dr. Amen. I hired 2 therapists that I was talking to every day. I was doing everything right, and I really couldn't get it together, man.
This was a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it's a few years ago. So, I mean, just think of all the success I had, all the love I've had, all the people. Like, I have so many great people, and I can't see anything except what I'm doing wrong with these kids. And I have this aching feeling of missing them. And here's the way I want to describe it to everybody: it's like, this is the analogy I had in my head. It was like I was in a ship in the bay, and I had a really good ship, actually one of the biggest ships in the bay, and everything seemed perfect from the outside world. And there was no waves. It's like I felt like I should have been content with that. I had all this other stuff. You want love too, but I knew that the only way, just from life experiences, that I could get to the next level, because that's how I did it in business. Every 3-4 years of my life, I reinvent myself. What I realized is that my next level of life lived on the other side of this horrific storm. And many times prior, I'd stick the tip of the boat in the storm. It'd get rocky, and I'd go back to my bay. This time, there was no turning back, and I was in the storm. And I did all the things, and it's given me another level of empathy because, I mean, I didn't know how crippling anxiety could be. I didn't know how crippling, like, not having a compelling future can be. And here's the thing why I think my books are selling more, my company's going to another level, and I'll talk about having the love of my life at this age. It's because I went through hell and back. Like, worst experience ever. Nothing compared. Not anything from a childhood, not being abused, not being sexually abused, nothing compared to this feeling of I was doing this to my kids. But while I was in this storm, and this is what I want to tell everybody, like, I didn't see the other side of the storm. I was just in it. And sometimes I wished I could go back. Not back to the relationship, just back to where it was calm. I just want my life back. And then it was like one day, literally like one day, I was on the other side of the storm.
And it was calm.
It was calm, and my life was completely different. I navigated new territory. I had transparency on a whole nother level. I met the love of my life. Like because the champagne bottle emptied. Like it's all gone. Like I have zero, I'm not holding anything back. I have no more secrets. I'm completely congruent. I could leave my phone open. I'm not texting anybody. I'm not flirting with anybody. I don't have to hide that I don't have a good relationship. It was complete honesty. I told my ex everything. I met Lisa and my heart was open. And now I'm at a place like, I can't even explain it. I'm in the greatest love of my life on every level, and not infatuation. It's all of it.
Sounds like you don't need to work or need to keep pushing. But what's the dream, and why do you keep going after it?
So I think it's 3 things. So real quick, I think there's 3 types of entrepreneurs. There's an entrepreneur who wants to work under the blanket of someone else, right? They're the person that's in a company. You're like, man, that guy, that woman, they want to rise up through the ranks and be an entrepreneur, but kind of with the safety net. And it doesn't make them better or worse than anybody else. Without the implementers in your life, without the team, who would I be without the amazing people on my team? Secondly, there's lifestyle entrepreneurs. Like my buddy Dean Jackson, he's got this I know I'm being successful when list. This is for anybody who's got a lifestyle entrepreneur. There's just a certain amount of money. He says, I know I'm being successful when I don't have an alarm clock in my house and it never goes off. I wear black T-shirts every day and no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
I golf, I golf at least 5 times a week.
Correct.
I live on a $50,000 a month net income. I live like, what do you say? I live like an artist with a trust fund, except I don't know how to paint. So he's got this, he has this list. He knows he's being successful when, and that's lifestyle entrepreneur. And then there's entrepreneurs that just want to they're accomplishment based. It has nothing to do with the money. They thought it was the money, and I think this with me. They thought it was when I get the money and success out of the way, then I could stop worrying. And it's not. It's the next accomplishment. What can you do? It's the game, and I think it converts. That's why you see somebody like Richard Branson that his whole life now is Virgin Unite. His charity. I spent a couple weeks with him out in his island because me and Joe Polish raised $1 million for him, so we got to spend time with him. And he started that same process, made all the money, and then now he's still driven. But now it's how many more schools he can build in Africa. So it never changes. But always have your focus on something. Like you see people who go to Warren Buffett. His age, he's still crushing because he has a bigger purpose. We always have to have that. So I would say, a couple of years ago, especially when the kids are young, I was thinking of, should I just cash out and spend 10 years being a dad? But I wouldn't be the best me. I love accomplishing. I love creating. I love something new, so.
What do you want to accomplish in your life? What's the big thing?
The big thing is, I'm first and foremost, I'd love to say it's, I'd say top 2 is showing people an easier path. I think most people are they're driving 100 miles an hour and they don't know where to go. It's like even if they got a Ferrari engine, they don't have any GPS, and it's like everybody's going fast. And most of the time they think it's going to be this dramatic, spectacular thing. And a lot of times it's the same thing that they could have learned from Dale Carnegie or Earl Nightingale or Napoleon Hill or somebody, it's just these simple core things that can make them slow down and achieve. And I think that I have the ability to deliver a message in a way that it sticks. And that's what I've been blessed to do in real estate. It's not that I had found the only way to make money in real estate, but I was the biggest real estate educator in the entire world. There was nobody even close to me. It was like second through 20th place didn't make up the volume I did, right?
Right.
And there was other guys that were great at education. I just think I found a way to deliver it. It's probably because of my dyslexia and my learning disabilities and stuff. I found a way to give people recipes. So I would say a big fuel is getting people these strategies in their hands so they could see there's a better way. But the number one is to just be a totally present and impactful father. Like it's just where I'm at, and it's magical age. Anybody who's watching it remembers their kids 8-10 years old. It's like I'm still Superman. They still love me.
In 2-3 years, it's downhill.
Exactly.
Right?
So I'm gonna absorb it while I can.
That's cool.
A couple of years, I might have a new thing for trying to get teenagers to like you or something. I don't know.
Sure. What's the thing people misunderstand about you the most?
I would say because I did infomercials for years. Tony and I had this conversation. A lot of times when somebody sees you on an infomercial, it's like, oh, that guy's got to be a huckster. He's just schlepping books on an infomercial. So I think the biggest misconception is that I'm an introvert. When I'm on stage or on camera or an interview, I love it. But if I go to my kid's school function, there's a whole bunch of people around. I'm the one hiding in the corner or playing with the kids. I'm not a networker. I've never had a business card in my entire life. And I think some people, when they see that, if they're looking from afar, if they don't come up and shake my hand, people will say, oh, that guy, he's too good for everybody. He doesn't talk to anybody. I really don't know. I'm hiding.
Sure.
Right. So I would say that, and I think the infomercial thing. I got just one more thing about Tony Robbins. The first time I met him, about 5 years ago, I go up to his hotel room. He's doing a date with Destiny. Invites me up for lunch, and I get there and we're talking for like 15 minutes. And he stands up and he picks up and he gives me a hug and he says, I got to apologize to you. He's like, I almost canceled this meeting today because you were an infomercial guy. And he goes, I made a judgment. And he goes, what an ass, because I was the infomercial guy.
Yeah.
He goes, I've been trying to run away from it because people look at you and wonder. And he said, and I judged you wrong. And we've been really close since then. So I think that those two things are probably the biggest.
Wow. Is there any question that you wish more people would ask you that they don't ask?
God, that's a really good question. Yeah, probably how to get, I think, and I watched this when we did the fundraiser with Richard Branson, we went there, I watched everybody trying to ask him, like, how'd you get to be a billionaire? And I think that's the wrong question when you see somebody successful. I think it's more of like asking them either what their why was or how they overcame obstacles or how they persevered. So I think, and I don't think it's about it's about the story. It's just, I think so many people give up on the 5-yard line. I think so many of you are just there and you think it's so much heavier. When you start playing at a higher level, there's not a lot of competition.
No.
And I'm not doing much different. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not doing much different now than I did to start my collision shop and start my auto sales. I'm doing the same thing, just on a bigger scale. I still have to overcome negativity. I still have to get out of bed. I still am stressed some days. And there's some days I question myself. There's some days I make bad decisions. And it's just how you get over them, how you handle it, and how you go forward is everything. Yeah. And you say that, and I'm talking and thinking at the same time, and I don't know how much time we have left, but I would say the last thing, or one of the last things I'd love people to really think about is their thoughts. Have you ever read The Untethered Soul?
No.
Got to put it on your list.
Okay.
How about Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now?
Sure. Yeah.
You read that?
I have. Yes.
Okay. So, and Untethered Soul is, for me, it's that and so much more. It's a great book.
Wow.
So I don't know if you had another question. So I'll reframe that. It's that one.
Yes.
But if there's one specific question, I'd love for people to say, how do you be the observer of your thoughts? And that's something.
So how do you?
Yeah. And that's something I would, and the only reason I say this is because I've been obsessed with it for the last 3 years, because I want to be the observer of thoughts immediately. And I'm not there yet. I want it to trigger, because when you're having a bad day, an angst day, a stressful day, you feel off or overwhelmed, most of the time it's just the thoughts we're having in that particular day. And when you can look back and view those thoughts, you can make a decision to throw them out or not let that spin you up, or feel it for 10 minutes and then throw it out. But when you leave them there, they just linger. And the more I've become aware of my thoughts, the more I've evolved as a person. So again, I'm sitting here because my daughter, you're probably bored to death, hon. Love you. She's doing great over there. I'm going to tell a story about her. I am trying to observe my thoughts as they happen. Yeah. So I don't know if she'll remember this, but we were, and I'm sharing this as my story, but I want you to put yourself in these shoes. This could be your husband, your wife, your kids, your coworker, your partner, people you do business with, employer, employees. But we're at breakfast, and breakfast is really important to our family. We have breakfast every single day, and I cook for them most of the time. And so we sit at breakfast and we try to have conversations about gratitude and all this kind of stuff. And my son, Brody, was obsessed with these crayons. And they were like these crazy colors. They weren't red. They were like aqua blue, marine, something.
Sure.
So I'm sitting there using them, and I pull it out. I go, God, this is a cool color. And he names it. And I'm telling this for a reason. So I pull out another. He names all. I was at 25 or 50 in that pack. So he names all of them, these big, long names. I'm like, dude, what an incredible gift. I couldn't memorize these if I spent a month trying.
Right.
That's not how my brain thinks. But that's him. He's this structured, organized kid. Huh. So Bree, she says to me, I can do that. So I don't know if you remember this, hon, but she studied it. And like 5 minutes later on the second one, she didn't remember. I'm like, we're all blessed with different gifts. I couldn't remember. He does that, but my daughter's the inventor. She comes up with ideas that are real, not kid inventions. She's going to be amazing. She's going to be the visionary. My son's going to be the implementer. If you ever read Rocket Fuel, that's the two kids I have. I have an implementer and a visionary, right? So when she tried, all of a sudden, she got upset and started almost crying. And she said, because there was so much attention going to my son.
Of course.
And she says, Dad, it's because you spend more time with Brody than me in the mornings. And I remember just having the immediate thought that may have came from my dad or the way I was brought up. And I said to her, Bree, don't lie to me and don't lie to yourself. That's not true. I work my butt off to be completely equal, and you're telling yourself a lie. It's not a good story. And I went on this rant, and she tucked it up. She stopped tears. She tucked it up. It was the first time ever that she left the house without kissing me goodbye, ever. And I'm like, well, she just got to learn that lesson.
Yeah.
And she left for about a half hour, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I observed that thought I had. And what I basically told my daughter is that I didn't give a shit about her feelings, that it didn't matter how she felt.
Right.
That Dad was right. Tuck it down. I said if she was married to a man and I watched her try to tell her husband about her feelings, how she was feeling, and he basically told her to shut up and tuck it down, I'd have a talk with that dude if he's married to my daughter. And I treated my daughter that way. I got in my car because I'm sharing this because I practiced trying to observe what's going on. Why am I feeling this way? What is this thought I'm having? Step back, look at it. When I stepped back and looked at it, I knew I screwed up. I drove to school 100 miles miles an hour.
Even if you were right.
Even if I was right. No,
but it's not about...
I might have been right that I keep equal time.
Yes.
But I didn't acknowledge her feelings.
Exactly.
I didn't acknowledge her feelings. I mean, and that's the gift of selling. It's not what people need. It's what they want and how they feel, right? So I told her feelings were off. I drove to her school 100 miles an hour. You were at chapel. Do you remember I came and got you out of chapel? I got her out of chapel, and I walked her outside, and I said, Dad screwed up. I said, I may have been right in context, but I wasn't right in telling you your emotions mean something, your feelings mean something. And we had a great talk. We hugged, we kissed. Her and I had the best relationship in the world. And I left. And I felt amazing, and she felt amazing. And I never would have caught that if I wasn't observing my thoughts. So I say that story about my family, my daughter who's sitting here right now, but who are you not, what thoughts are clouding your judgment in a marriage or in a relationship or in your partnership or trying to get a raise or taking your life to another level? Whatever it is in your life, most of the time it's those thoughts that are messing with us. And if you can observe them, you can adjust them.
Amazing, man. I've got a few final questions for you. This has been great. This one's called the 3 Truths.
Okay.
So it's many, many years down the line. You've achieved everything you want, but it's your last day. It's your last day here, right? And it's the last day. Your whole family is there, friends, everything. For whatever reason, all your books have been erased from time. Okay. And they've sold hundreds of millions of them at this point. They're all gone.
Okay.
And someone in your family comes up and says, I have a piece of paper and a pen. And all you get to do is write down 3 things you know to be true about everything you've experienced in your life. The 3 simple truths, or the 3 lessons that is all we would remember you by physically. Because all the stuff in the books is gone. What would be the 3 truths for you?
Wow, what a great question. I'm glad I didn't know that one in advance because I would have thought about it too much. That's really good, dude. I think the 3 truths are that it's not the objects, it's the things that we get to experience. So you can't buy your way. I had a lot of pain as a kid, which we all did. And I know I thought for a time in my life that money would fix that. And there's nothing more than the experience. My daughter's on her first trip with me as a business trip. This is worth millions to me. I'd give up all my books to have that. So it's the moments and the experience, not the things, is one. I would say that I lived true. Okay, this is a really good question. Sorry, I'm like
it's all good.
But I would say success is easier than people think. Like I think there's a lot of days I'm like, man, when is everybody gonna figure out I'm not that smart? I'm just being honest. I literally for years I would say people are gonna figure I'm not that smart. I'm just enthusiastic and and I have the momentum and so I would say that truth is don't be over prepared, be overly enthusiastic and committed. And I would say last is that I found a way to let thoughts be things, not who I am. If thoughts can be automatically a thing, but not who I am at my soul, then I lived a good life.
Those are great truths. Thank you. Before I ask the final question, I want to acknowledge you for a moment, Dean, for your incredible generosity and your enthusiasm for wanting to impact so many people.
Oh, thank you.
From a guy that has gone through so much pain and suffering to a person who's led a life of service and constantly pushing the envelope and showing what's possible for people like me who are dyslexic as well and who barely, got through high school and college myself, 7 years of college. You're such an inspiration. Every time I see your message or see you in person, you're always smiling and happy and want to give to people.
Well, thank you.
So I want to acknowledge you for all those gifts.
Well, thank you. And I give that back. That's why I'm here, because I love what you're doing, and I don't stop. Keep pushing. Yeah. No matter what it takes, get it out there.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
We have one final question, but make sure you guys go get Millionaire Success Habits. Go get the book. Where's the link for it again?
You can, of course, it's on iTunes, but we set up a special link at mshbook.com.
MSH.
Yeah, like
that's Millionaire Success Habits.
Yeah, mshbook.com.
Awesome. We'll have that linked up in the show notes. And where do you like to hang out the most online? Do you spend time on social media at all yourself?
I don't, not much. A little bit on Facebook, a little bit on Instagram, but
okay. We'll link it up there in the show notes as well.
Be great.
And the final question is, what's your definition of greatness?
Just going at it full tilt boogie. A buddy of mine used to say when I was in high school, he used to say when he was playing football, if he had a great day, he goes, and I was full tilt boogie. I don't even know what that means, but I think definition of greatness is just knowing that you gave it your all. And I think so many people on that last, when you're 90 years old and you look back, if you didn't give it your all, I think that's going to be one of those things like, I had one shot at this. Why didn't I just go for it? Why didn't I say yes? Why didn't I finally say no? So I think greatness is just freaking putting the pedal to the metal.
Before we continue this video, make sure to subscribe below and turn on the notification bell right now so you don't miss out on these great videos every single day.
What would you say are 3 secrets that millionaires who have it all have? What have they
good question.
What have they figured out to become a millionaire, to have the love, to have the family, to have it all?
Yeah.
And to impact everything, doing the things they love. What are the secrets? You know, you've got all these habits, but what is the real secret that's different than the actionable habits? Maybe it's a belief, maybe it's a way of thinking, maybe it's the self-education side of things. What is that?
So I would say, well, because I would bet to say there's not one person listening that would take a salary of $5 million a year, but it was impossible to have love, or take a salary for $5 million a year, but you couldn't see your husband or see your wife, right? Like, or be unhappy. Like, money without fulfillment is useless. It's probably the biggest lie the world is told, right? And I know you read Millionaire Success Habits.
Yeah, it's great.
It's Millionaire Success Habits, but it's really life success habits, right?
Sure.
It's like when people start going like, oh, I could make more money this way, but this is really, I can fix my life.
I'll feel better.
My relationship, I'll feel better, right? So I think it's a really great question. I wasn't prepared for it, but I know for a fact some of them. One of them is people that, whatever you focus on, whatever gets your attention gets results. If you're listening right now and you're in great shape, it means your body is getting attention. You're eating the right food. You're working out. If your company's doing amazing, you have focus, attention, and hunger. That's a great one too. Is you have hunger for that business. You have hunger to be in great shape. If you have a romantic, passionate love and relationship for 15 years, it gets your focus. It gets your attention. You don't ignore it. So the one thing that I've seen is, if you think of all the habits someone can have, is someone who's successful in every way, or in a lot of ways, not just wealthy, but overweight and unhealthy. Overweight and unhealthy, is they really know what's important, and they say no to all the things that complicate that. So I don't want to go down this too far, but I make myself a not to do list all the time, Lewis, and I obsess on knowing what I really want. Most times people that are living with suffering or stress or worry, most of their life is focused on what they don't want. I don't want this employee to be annoying anymore. I don't want this to happen. I don't want this president anymore. I don't. And they don't have enough of knowing in crystal clear clarity where it is they want to go. So you asked me one thing in common. The most successful people I know, if you got them in an elevator and say, hey, man, what's the next year of your life look like? Bam, bam. You know this from all your interviews. Oh, we're doing this. We're starting this new company. We're doing this. You ask somebody who's struggling or not happy, they'll tell you what they don't want. Even if you ask them, and anybody listening, you could do this. Ask somebody who's not doing well what they want out of life, and they'll tell you what they don't want. They'll go, you know what? I don't want this damn job anymore, even though you asked them what they want. So I think
that's someone who's not doing well in life.
Not doing well. So I really believe that
I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be in this relationship.
I don't want to be in this shit ass relationship. Yeah. She doesn't give me hope, or he doesn't listen to me. Right? I don't want to be in this job where everybody takes care of me. It's like, but what do you really want? Man, I just don't want to worry about money anymore. It's like, wow. Yeah. But ask somebody who's successful in a lot of areas of your life, like, oh man, I want to get my new company off the ground. I want to get in better shape. Like, they know where it is they want to go. So I would say,
then they can figure out, okay, what are the steps to getting there?
Right.
How do I do that?
Right.
Now?
So
yeah.
I guess a longer answer to a short question, because you asked for 3, is if you really know where you want, you point your ship in that direction. And successful people start saying no to all the things that don't serve them going in that direction. That if it doesn't serve God, it doesn't serve a better version of you. It doesn't serve more income, a better relationship. It doesn't serve your health. Successful people know how to say, I'm not doing it. Or someone talks in their life, you're gone. Like,
they're not eating the sugar, they're not drinking, they're not doing those things. Yeah.
And literally, when you do that in all areas of life, where do I want to go with my health? Okay, anything that doesn't serve that, I'm not doing it. Where do I want to go with my income? Okay, I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to point my ship in that direction. If it doesn't match, I'm throwing it away. Where do I want with my intimacy and my passion? Like, figure out, read the books, gain the capabilities. Yeah. So that's one. Number two is, this is going to be the simplest one, but I really, it's going to be so simple. You're going to, listeners are going to go, oh, this guy's a freaking genius.
Secrets, yeah.
Is focus on the things that work in your life and be the observer of the things that work. You come home in your relationship and you say something and your wife or your husband lights up. Like, acknowledge that and do more of it. Like, this is going to be the simplest answer you've ever heard. And then on the opposite side, acknowledge what doesn't work in your life and do less of it or change it. And as simple as that sounds, I learned that through marketing. I love to market because I know if I can get my book in people's hands, if I get my courses in people's hands, they come to my workshops, they come to my master classes, they come to my masterminds, I can change their life. I can't change their life if I don't get them in. So marketing isn't one of those things I have to do. It's a must because I get to change your life the moment you give me a credit card. Give me a credit card to buy my book. You read it. Your life is altered. So with that feeling, like I went in so many different directions. I lost my train of thought there. Go back.
Focus on what you want and observe.
Yeah.
And observe what you don't want.
Right. So I learned that. That's what. Thank you for reminding me that. Is I was going to go down a marketing trail, but what I got so good at marketing. There's so many different, like, what's the color website? Do you use an arrow? What's the opt-in? What's the close? How did you anchor? What's the hook? What's like, all I know with marketing is I love being transparent and enthusiastic. But the last thing is I've obsessed on what works in my marketing and I get feedback. I've read probably 100,000 comments, because tens of thousands of comments, because I read and I hear what people's fears are. I hear what they like about my stuff. I hear what they don't. And when I see a bunch of people telling me what they like, here's the brilliant Dean Graziosi. I do more of it.
Yeah.
And when they tell me this didn't work, it was complicated, I was a little confused, the brilliance comes out again. I do less of it. And I realize successful people do that in all areas of your life. If having 3 drinks at night makes me not get up in the morning to go to the gym and the gym makes me feel good, I'll have FOMO of not going to the gym. I'm going to do less of that 3-hour drinking rather than quitting the gym so I can get there, because that makes so I'm doing less of what hurts me, more of what works. That's the same process of thinking. Living life the hard way is easy, and living life the easy way is hard.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So, I mean, when you're hungry, just grab a McDonald's. It tastes good. It's easy. It's quick.
It's quick.
Right? That's easy.
Cheap, yeah.
But you could end up with diabetes, dying young, not looking good, not being healthy, not getting the love you want because you look like shit. Just let's be honest.
Yeah.
Going and eating the right food, eating organic, going to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning is hard. But I look at my dad. My dad's been eating healthy and working out his entire life. My dad's 84. My dad's 84. I'm not kidding you. My dad looks like he's 55 years old.
Wow.
No exaggeration. No, I'm not saying like no hunch. No, like the man, he runs on the I mean, the guy is an anomaly. But my dad lived the hard way. He said no to all the greasy food. He got up every single day and has gone to the gym for the last 30 years. Like, so just think about that. It's like, focus on what works and do more of it. I know if I treat my fiance a certain way, she looks at me with love at the highest level. I acknowledge what is her love language, and I see if I do something for her, if I'm there for her, if I'm always looking at her, my eyes are on her, even if I'm across the room, she lights up. So man, I want more of that.
You do more of it.
So I do more of it.
Yeah.
I see if a girl walks by and I look at her, it doesn't go so well. So I do less of that.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So as simple as that sounds, think about in your life, are you compounding what works and eliminating what doesn't?
Okay, I love it. Yeah. That's point number 2.
And the third one's real easy. It's self-education. I never stopped learning. When I was in my 20s,
This is huge,
I
yeah.
cut Tony Robbins a check. He gave me wisdom, capabilities, confidence, and my life went to another level, at every level.
Yeah.
I get involved in masterminds. After Tony introduced me to all these people through his power talks, every month a new power talk came in the mail on a CD.
Yeah.
Man, I'd learn about Wayne Dyer, obsess on Wayne Dyer, get his courses, get his trainings, anything I could do. And I realized that every single, including you, every single successful person I know is a part of groups, a part of masterminds, a part of self-education, learning from other people. I mean, look at this weekend. Look at how we all solved our problems this weekend in moments. You bring up, like, how should I do this? Like this. Somebody's been there. And it's the collective wisdom of the room, or it's someone who's already been there. And I would say in today's world, just be careful because, and not knocking anybody, but influencer's got a weird name now. Influencer could be somebody who's run a $400 million a year company and now wants to share. An influencer could also be someone who shows a lot of fancy cars and got 2 million followers, and both consider an influencer.
Yeah.
Just model people who are doing what you want to do at the highest level possible.
Right.
If your Aunt Edna watched tennis her whole life, but you want to be a tennis pro, you're not going to go to Aunt Edna just because she watched. You want to go to an ex-pro. Right? So I think, self-education, it's one of the things I'm doing with my buddy Tony Robbins. It's our passion right now to make self-education the new norm. Because literally the other day we're having a conversation, and I said, without self-education, we're both laughing our asses off that we'd both be just totally screwed if we didn't find this path, right? And it's funny talking to him because he's the one that got me started on the path, right? And I said, we probably would have met if I didn't find self-education, but it would have been if you were in upstate New York and you went through a McDonald's drive-thru and I would have asked you if you wanted to supersize those fries, right? And we just laughed hard. But we've been really passionate, and we're working on a project together to help people extract the knowledge in their head. Like, let's just be honest, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but the current education system's broken.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they won't fix it, but it's broken. It's antiquated. Technology's moving too fast. Colleges have gone up 8 times while jobs and salaries have stayed flat.
Yeah. Well, they're also teaching us the things that aren't serving
They're not relevant.
our lives forever.
Yeah.
They're teaching us subjects. They're not teaching us a belief system.
Right, a belief system, habits, successful traits, right? It's just the world has changed so much, and it needs to be updated. But until then, self-education should be the norm. I mean, you think about this, my staff, the majority of my staff right now are young as heck. But I'm not hiring people. Half of my staff haven't gone to college. I have a 19-year-old kid running my social media ad spend. He spends a couple $100,000 a week every week. He's 19. I have a 22-year-old doing everything on YouTube. We're killing it on YouTube. I have all these young kids, and how I hired them, because I'm in this phase of my life, is I didn't care where they went to school or if they went to school, and I didn't care if they ever worked before. All I wanted to know is, was self-education a part of their life? Did they read the same books, do the same courses as I did? Were they A players, and were they teachable? And if that was, I'd hire them. I just hire a consultant to come in, train them for a day, 2 days, a week, and then let them go. Wow. I think I have the best staff on the planet, and most of those kids would have been misfits in corporate America. So Tony and I want to share, like, the answer to that is in everybody's list. Like right now, if you're listening, the answer to fix this problem is in your head, because the world has got so niche that, there's people having workshops on how to cut a fade, how to cut a fade in a hair, and a barber, instead of just making money cutting hair, he's making a fortune every month teaching other people how to do it, right? Everybody has an expertise, and what Tony and I want to do is help the world unlock it, learn how to share it, and get paid for it. Here's a crazy stat that an industry that didn't even exist not that long ago. The self-education business is a $355 million a day industry. And I just read an article where it's expected to double in the next 2 years. The world is realizing that I can go to school and then learn from somebody, or I went to school 20 years ago and it's not serving me. I'm not even in that field. You go to school, learn from somebody, get 30 years of experience, then hopefully get a promotion, or you can leapfrog and learn from somebody who already has the experience if they can just extract it and share it. Like I look at what we've learned, like a skill, an expertise, a hobby, whatever it is. If it's like a hard drive that builds up value, if you wouldn't throw that hard drive away after 20 years or 10 years or 5 years of accumulating knowledge, you like throw away a multi-million-dollar hard drive. I think people should feel that way about their thoughts, their skills, their expertise. Like, if you have a knowledge, if it took you a year or 2 or 3 to figure something out, you should be obligated to extract it. But here's the cool part. There's a process to extract it. Yeah. Share it with people and get paid. It's a $355 million industry. When Tony and I started, Tony started way before me, but I'm over 20 years in this. It wasn't that cool, but it is now. That's why people listen to your podcast. They want new capabilities. Most people's best thinking got them where they are. Yeah. I don't know if that was confusing.
No, that's great. It's the reason why I started the School of Greatness, because I felt like when I got started in business, when I was on my sister's couch, I didn't know the answers, but I knew that school didn't teach me the answers, and I needed to go seek them out. So I started seeking out mentors who had the answers. And Amazing. I was kind of masterminding on my own, one-on-one with people when I was 23, 24 years old on my sister's couch. Then I remember they helped me get into business. Like these ideas from these mentors, they coached me, and I had the coachability and the desire. So I was hungry for it. They coached me to getting into business and launching it. I remember everything shifted when I joined my first mastermind. It was 2009, and 10 years ago. And I remember my business did about $500,000 in sales for 12 months. This 12 months before this, Then I went to the first mastermind. The next month, I made $250,000
Wow.
from the mastermind.
Yeah.
From connecting with a few
Same
people, from the
experience here.
insights, from the knowledge I gained. I was like, wow, I can save so much time and money by doing this one thing. And I've been a part of masterminds for the last 10 years. We just came back from one that
Game changer.
is going to help our businesses and everything for the next 3, 4, or 5 years to come from what we learned in 2 days. And so what are you and Tony Robbins doing then with this project? And how are you helping people? How can we get involved?
Yeah. So here's the thing. If you're an expert, you have a skill, you have knowledge, you're in this business. Like, as you're hearing this, like, imagine learning from Tony. And I don't think there's two people more capable. He's in 42 years. I'm in 21. We got 63 years of knowledge in this business. But if you're listening and you're already in this business, you're like, hey, I want to learn from these guys. And what we're teaching people to do in a blueprint is how to extract your knowledge and teach it in a way that's congruent. Whether you want to teach it online or in person through like a workshop or an online Zoom call or a mastermind, or if you want to build a community. I mean, in today's world, building a community and bringing like-minded people together creates massive revenue. That's where this $355 million a day is. So if you're already in this space, you're going to want to, and we created a link if you guys want. It's greatnesslink.com. Tony and I are doing, and Tony hasn't done something like this in over 15 years. We're doing a special online training. And everybody listening right now, you can register. Go to greatnesslink.com and register. Get the time. Show up 15 minutes early because there's going to be a live chat.
So you and Tony are going to be teaching something.
Yes, me and Tony.
What are you teaching on this training?
Real and raw. We're going to teach people how to extract their knowledge. But this is why I want everybody to listen right now. How to extract their knowledge and share it. Make an impact on the world. Everybody wants to make an impact, including you and I and everybody listening. Imagine making an impact and get paid. But who I really want to listen right now, this is real. I mean, people are in the business already know, but this is for anybody right now if you're listening and want to make additional revenue. If you'd love to make an impact on the world, you need to come hang out with Tony and I, because what most people don't realize is that this is an industry. If you're an expert, you should extract your knowledge, learn how to share it, and learn how to profit. But here's the thing. It's for everyone who wants to make more money and make an impact, because if you look at, we're going to teach you how to be the reporter of knowledge. Think about this. Tony wrote one of the most successful finance books in the history of the world. Money Master the Game. Big monster read. Book went crazy. Tony's not a finance guy.
Yeah, he was a reporter. He curated the information.
He curated the information. He was the reporter of the information. And he was able to share it and make a massive profit. I was on stage at my event and I said, hey, if I never did a real estate deal in my life, who in this room would pay me to come to a virtual workshop and showing you how to do real estate? Thousands of people, not one person raised their hand. I said, okay, but what if I went and interviewed the top 10 real estate investors in America, and I found their 7 common denominators for success? What if I was doing a Zoom workshop on that? Who would pay me $1,000 to come on it? The whole entire audience raised their hand. This is where our world is going. Technology has changed. The world has changed. People are ready to pay for community, for collaboration. So whether you're the expert or not, you have the opportunity to profit and make an impact and help change the world. Fix education and do what Tony and I want, make self-education the new norm.
Amazing. So if they go to greatnesslink.com, they can learn more about this.
Yeah, they can learn more about. You can register, put your email in your phone, email and your name. That's it, and we'll send you a reminder right before we go live.
Amazing.
That's
Amazing.
it.
It's about an hour long, or how long?
I think we'll be about. Tony doesn't.
Maybe
go
a little
short.
longer.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's gonna be powerful.
Have you ever listened to Tony and want him to stop talking?
Never.
No, seriously. You go to Date
amazing.
with Destiny, and you're like, all of a sudden you look down, it's 2 a.m. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Right. So we'll probably go a couple hours, but if you're looking to make additional money and make an impact in your life, I don't think there's anybody else that lights you up like that.
I love it.
Greatnesslink.com.
Go there right now, greatnesslink.com. This is powerful, man. This has been amazing. I'm glad you opened up about everything.
Good. And I know we were kind of all over the place, but I think it went really well. And
this has been amazing.
Yeah.
It's going to inspire a lot of people. I want to ask you a couple final questions quickly. I asked you this last time, but I'm curious if it's changed now that you've gone through different storms in your life and out on the other side. So this is called the 3 truths.
Okay.
And if you're 150, 200 years old and it's your last day, you've somehow transcended age and time, and you've extended your life as long as you want to be, but you've got to finalize your life at some point.
Okay.
You've accomplished everything you could imagine. You've seen your kids accomplish everything that they want to accomplish. You've got the love of your life. You've got the business, the impact, everything you've ever wanted to do, it happens. And you've got no regrets, but it's the last day. Everyone's around you. It's a celebration, and you can decide when you turn off the lights.
Okay.
And you get to leave behind 3 things you know to be true about everything you've learned in your life. There's no more access to your success habit books and all the other books you've created. There's no more access to your content. You've got to take it with you.
Yeah.
But you get to leave behind a piece of paper where you write down 3 things you know to be true about life, anything. What would you say are your 3 truths?
Well, I remember you asking me this question, and I know for a fact that some might be the same, but I know it's different because the first thing that came to my mind, and I don't know if I've ever said this out loud, but replace envy, anger, all those emotions with compassion. I think some people think that I let people take advantage of me because I'm too soft and too easy. And I believe now in my life that things have gone so well because I found a way to replace all emotions with compassion, and compassion and love win.
If you're looking for more greatness in your life, make sure to check out this video right here. And also check out our free PDF, The 3 Secrets to Unlock the Power of Your Mind to help you change your life. Download it right here.
If you don't have a goal, you suffer, and then you get cruel and bitter and resentful, and then you start to actively try to make the world a worse place.